Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome on into the Annie and Elsten show right here on 97.3 The Fan, San Diego's #1 sports station. Pleased to be with you today, taking you all the way to 2 o'clock. I'm Annie Heilbrunn, joined by Braden Soprendant. Craig Elsten is out today, but we will be taking you live and local up until 2, turning over the reins to Gwen and Chris. And excited to be here today. We've got a good show plan, talking about a myriad of different topics. Also going to talk to Adrian Gonzalez at 10:35 a.m. Really excited about that. He is being inducted into the San Diego Hall of Fame, the Breitbart Hall of Fame on Monday, and it's always great to catch up with Adrian Gonzalez. So we will get to him at 10:35, and a lot to get to in between. Braden, how you feeling today?
Feeling good. Heck of a week with Wednesday already being today. I can't believe it. I mean, you said before the show started. What day is it again? It's Wednesday.
Did.
It's Wednesday. After so many weeks of not knowing what day it is because you're off,
Yes.
You have to get back into the grind. I've probably put 2024 at least on half of our stuff, and I've had to go back and redo it.
I've done the same thing. And when I fill out different
25.
forms, I don't realize it's 2025. Also, what you said with those 2 weeks off, and because I was sick that second week, but it wouldn't have mattered if I was or wasn't, you do lose track of the days. You know, the holidays are there. You lose track of what day it is. And then we've had such a busy week coming back in terms of news and everything. So it's good. We're halfway through our first real week in 2025.
Yeah. One day
at a time.
51 to go.
One day at a time. And I see everybody coming into the chat. It's great to have you all here. Adam in the chat makes a good point. Watching the fires online late last night, it was crazy. And I know we wanted to just start the show off sending our condolences and our thoughts to everybody that's dealing with this right now. I mean, this looks insane, what's going on in Los Angeles with these fires, and it happens so quickly, as these often do. And so our hearts are going out to everybody who's having to make some really tough decisions in the moment, split-second decisions, and having to navigate what's going on there in Los Angeles. But, I mean, Braden, do you remember when the fires were pretty bad here? The Chargers had to go play.
Oh, I remember those ones.
Yeah.
I remember all of them.
Right. We've had our share.
Multiple.
Yeah.
The first one, I remember the 03 one for me was a little bit more moving around than the was it 07? What was the second group? I think it was like 07. Yeah, because that was a wild time. I remember like that entire day, like start to finish in 2003. God, how old was I? I mean,
young. You were young.
I was like 7 or 8 years old. But that morning started off. I was actually. My dad's parents, my grandparents, they live in Lakeside.
Yeah.
And we actually just happened to be, like you do when you're a kid, stay over at your grandparents' house. And we happened to be staying at their house. And I remember waking up and I used to sleep heavy. I always sleep heavy. I sleep through earthquakes. I sleep through a lot of that stuff. I remember waking up to a guy in a megaphone saying, the back mountain is on fire. You got to get out of your house. And I was like, what? And I get up and I look outside the window, and that entire mountain is just covered in flames. The one because they live
so
off
scary.
of the 67, like by the northeast of that Circle K by the El Cap. So that whole like mountainside was just on fire. And I remember evacuating down to the Circle K. I remember my dad having to convince the cops to let him onto the 67 to go get me and my brother and my sister to take us back to our house in Scripps Ranch. My grandparents stayed, and they actually had the wildest thing. They had a guy show up, because they try to protect their property, right? And they had a guy show up out of nowhere. Used to be a fire chief or something like that. No idea who he was before. And never knew he just disappeared after that.
Wow.
He set a backfire in their lot and flipped the fire to a different side. It went right through the middle of their lot to save the house. And then he disappeared. And then seen him since.
He was like a fire savior in the moment.
Yeah,
he knew what he was doing.
I mean, my grandmother calls him a guardian angel.
Exactly. Because the house would have been burned down.
Right, everything.
Right.
So he saved a lot of houses that day. And then we went to Scripps, and then all of a sudden it was like, this thing's moving closer to us, and then we had to evacuate there, and then we ended up evacuating 2 more times, and we ended up at my grandmother's house in Casa de Oro, and I remember like I couldn't go to sleep because we just kept moving.
Yeah.
And it was far enough away, but she has a view of Mount Miguel, and Mount Miguel was on fire, and it was a wild time. So a lot of us here in San Diego obviously have experienced that before, and We're always on our toes anytime the Santa Ana winds start getting crazy. And everybody just make sure they're safe, they're ready to go, they're packed up just in case. Yes. And, obviously feeling for everybody in Los Angeles that is affected by this because, we've been through this before. So, hope for the best and, praying for the firefighters that are doing their best to try to contain this, the Cal Fire guys and everybody involved in Southern California that are all hands on deck right now.
Out there in the thick of it. Yeah, Squirrely in the chat says, stepped out on my porch in OB. It was raining ash. That's what I remember.
I remember that too.
You walked outside and, it was hard to breathe. And it was so stifling and the ash and everything. But clearly thousands of businesses and families and more than that now are being affected in Los Angeles. So definitely.
The wind makes it just scary because you get no air support, right? I mean, it's hard. And after all those fires we've had, Cal Fire and those guys, they put all these little fires out so fast. So it's gonna be a battle up there for those guys. We hope for the best.
Absolutely. And so wanted to touch on that, and wanted to touch on as we get this show started today, what the news of the week really has been here in San Diego, which is this lawsuit put forth by Seidler to the brothers, two of the brothers of Peter Seidler, and there was more developments yesterday. So that's how we're going to start the show. We're going to talk about that. I know everyone's always interested in that, and I think that once we talk about this today, I have a feeling that this is going to go quiet at least a little bit because both sides have essentially said their piece, right? So yesterday, Kevin Acee of the San Diego Union Tribune puts out a story in the evening. It was around 5 or so, talking about Matt Seidler's comments that he made public. Now, Matt Seidler is one of Peter Seidler's brothers, I believe the youngest brother, and he is the trustee of the trust that now is held by him, and the rest of the Seidler family upon Peter's death. And he's the actual trustee. So he put a letter out, and you can all go read it. And this is what I think helps in this situation. He put it on, they made a website. It's titled peterseidlertrust.com. peterseidlertrust.com. You can go there and you can read the letter for yourself. It's a lengthy letter. I think it's worth reading, especially if you've been following Shields' lawsuit and what she put forth. I think you should probably go read this too and kind of see both sides and what both sides are saying. But the letter is public. So they sent it out to different sponsors and different people affiliated with the Padres, and then also addressed it to fans. And in this article from Kevin, he's got comments being made both from Matt Seidler and also from Shields Seidler's lawyers. So I think it's really worth a read in the sense of you get both sides, right? And that's all we can do here today and going forward. We can just present to you the facts and what's going on, but at least let you know, hey, this is where the sides are and this is what was brought forth yesterday. So always understanding that, like, we're not lawyers, we're not judges, we don't know all the vernacular and everything caught in between it, but we'll do the best we can here. At the heart of this really is like we are just swimming in very murky, ugly waters of very wealthy people trying to figure out how to best, parse their very valuable assets, right? You would agree, I think everyone listening, that the Padres are a very valuable asset, right? So that is at the heart of this. It is ugly, right? I mean, there's just no way around it. It's a lot of he said, she said. We are swimming in the waters with them. You're kind of learning this as you go, and kind of they're learning this as they go too. But I also think it's important to point out, like I said yesterday, this has been going on for a while now. Like, even though it was made public this week, the Padres have been business as usual during the time that things were like swelling up to this, reaching the crux that it reached this week. So I say that because I know that it seems like, and it is, I know that there's a lot going on here and that it's very serious. But at the same time, business is going to happen as usual at Petco Park. Baseball is going to happen. We're like 5 weeks away from spring training. And I promise you, once those videos start streaming in from Jackson Merrill swinging on the backfields, or
pop of the glove,
crack
of the bat,
right?
Beautiful mornings in Arizona.
That's right. The sun rising, the crisp air. Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr. dancing in the outfield. Manny's going to be talking to the media and everyone as well. I don't think you're going to forget about this. You shouldn't. This is going to be humming along in the background. But I think you're going to see that there's like two parallel paths here. And they're going to be running concurrent and they're going to be running alongside each other. But you're still going to be able to enjoy one while the other is going on, right? And we'll see what happens with the second one. So here you are, right, with what Matt Seidler put out. And essentially, I think what is the most important thing about what Matt Seidler put out is he said Peter did have a clear plan. The clear plan is written out. It's black and white. He allowed 3 of his brothers to take control of the trust. That's Robert, that's Matt, and that's John, who was just made the control person. But Robert ended up having a health problem, so he turned the control of the trust, the trustee, over to Matt. So that explains why Matt is in charge of the trust right now. And the clear and explicit instructions were, hey, whoever's in control of the trust gets to name the control person. So this is kind of where it's black and white. And this is why you have a lawsuit coming forward, is because it is kind of black and white, right? Like this is how it was laid out. This was what Peter's wishes were. Now, Sheila's contesting that. Sheila's contesting that those were his true wishes. And that's absolutely her right. But this is the kind of black and white part of it that Matt Seidler is talking about, where there was a plan, there were wishes. Could Peter have made it a little bit more secure, I guess? Like, could he have named a control person before he passed? Yeah, absolutely. But as Matt Seidler points out in the letter, this was his way. Peter liked to give control to people who had earned it, and in this case, he felt his brothers, and let them make decisions based on what they felt was best for them. So it's very much in line as what Matt Seidler is saying to what he would have wanted and the way that he operated, right? So that I think is like the biggest thing here, is that they're coming back and they're saying there is a complete and true plan here. And it is laid out in black and white. And then Shield's counsel in Kevin Acey's story points out, okay, but if she can't be the control person, she doesn't feel like she's being taken care of in the trust. Like she doesn't feel like they are looking out for her in the trust. Again, her prerogative. I don't know exactly what that means. None of us do. But she's got to be able to put that out there, and that'll probably go to court, and they'll have to figure out what exactly that means. That's a much more gray area than the black and white of the control person and who's running the Padres. So this is kind of where we're at, Braden, where it's like, we'll get into a little bit more, but the two sides have essentially said, it is black and white. This is what he wanted. These were his wishes. And what Sheila's doing is contesting that and saying, maybe so, but that's not what he told me. And that's not what this sheet of paper that she has says, right? Now, is that legal? What's going to stand in court? I don't know, right? And will this get settled? We'll have to figure that out. But essentially, as Matt says in this letter, he left clear instructions regarding how he wanted key decisions related to the Padres. And he said, quote, had Peter intended any of these things, he could have easily made that intention clear in the governing documents, meaning if he wanted Shield to be in charge, which he amended for other matters several times before and after he became control person in 2020. So again, this is going to go on and on. This is not going to end anytime soon. This is going to stay messy. This is going to stay murky. But these are two parallel paths. Baseball will be going while this will be humming behind. And the other thing I just want to point out is, look, it is very sad. It is very tragic what happened with Peter Seidler. It is very sad for Shield and the kids. It is extremely sad. I can't even imagine. You know that he's sick. And as Shield let Bryce Miller know in a UT column last year, there was a compromising infection to him that he ended up passing earlier than probably anybody would have hoped, even though they knew he was sick, or of course, earlier than they would have hoped, but expected even, right? But on the other side of that is also his brothers, and his brothers love him too. You know what I mean? Like his brothers for 60 years were his brothers. And so I just want to be sensitive to that. Like you got to be sensitive to both parties here, at least in my opinion. They're both grieving the loss of someone that was very, very close to them. And that's kind of how I see it. This is a tough situation. They're having to fight over these assets. But Peter meant a lot to both sides, and that's kind of how I look at it. The other thing, Braden, he shot down any relocation. He said there's no talk of relocation happening.
which I don't think was ever going to be the case. I didn't,
Yeah.
it's hard to find. I don't know where they would go. I mean, with all the things that are going on at Petco Park, and we talked about that article a couple days ago, very briefly, about how great of a relationship it is with the city and all the events that they have at Petco Park, and what that's bringing to the city and what that's bringing to the Padres, and what a great job they do putting on all these events. I mean, they got another event this weekend. The rodeo's in town for 3 days this weekend, and they do such a great job of bringing the top echelon artists from all types of music to Petco Park, and all the major events and the different creativity that they do. They have the Callaway Golf thing. They have the rodeo now. They just had Post Malone. During December, they've had some of the biggest country artists come through, and then they do they have 2 concert venues at Petco, which is super cool. How they've put so much money into the facility and everything like that. I can't imagine them just packing up and trying to just start over somewhere else. It just didn't make any sense. But as you mentioned, Annie, one side of the table of this lawsuit put out their claims. The other side put out their claims in defense, and now it's out of everybody's hands. It doesn't affect our lives. It's not. We're not a part of this. This is their deal that they have to deal with. I think a lot of Padres fans are nervous about, like, how does this affect the team on the on-field product, thinking it's all gonna go bad just because of maybe some previous history of lawsuits that have involved other Padre organizations, but. This will be decided in court, and they'll decide who's right in this deal, and they'll move on from there. And we're not going to get an answer tomorrow. It's going to be a long time before we get the answer. So it's business as usual for us. It's business as usual for the team, and starting with the general manager and AJ Preller, and putting together a ball club and getting ready for 2025.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and it is tough. And I feel for Padres fans. I understand how frustrating this can be. And I do understand, like, you're paying for tickets, you're going to the stadium, you're supporting. You want to feel like things have a bit of certainty, or they are resolved. This won't be resolved for a while, but they will still move forward. And I think that John Seidler will still become the control person once they're allowed to vote on it at the next owners meeting, unless MLB steps in for some reason. But if not him, it's probably going to be Eric Consenda. But it still doesn't affect the fact that AJ Preller has a budget. He's going to move forward with the budget, and he's going to make moves based on what he can in the budget. And that's really not changing. That was already set up before any of this broke publicly. And that's what I mean by things have been brewing for a while. They know what's going on down there at Petco Park, right? So they're moving concurrently. Like I said, they've got this going on, humming in the background, but then they've got this over here, which is baseball happening. And AJ Preller is going to be doing his thing. Now, he gets to make that call when he wants to make some of these moves, right? But that they are going to happen. They are going to field a team and have a full team out there once the first game of the season starts. Like, they're not just going to have like blank spots out there, in left field or anything. So I think, in terms of that part of it, I get it too. Like, there's just frustration. Like, we want to get excited about a move and everything like that. I get that. And I think that that'll come in time. But right now, the Padres are like 3/4 of a complete team. Like, they are 3/4 of a good team. It's frustrating and hard to watch other teams around you make moves, but hopefully AJ Preller does, and he usually does, have some plan up his sleeve, or as Mike Schultz says, down his pants, or whatever it is, right? And he's able to pull some rabbits out of the hat and kind of get creative with things. And that's what we're looking at. The finances were going to be the same no matter what. So that's the budget he's working with, those same finances, right? So we're going to talk more about this. We'll talk more about it going forward. We'll set up the rest of the show. Stay with us right here. Annie and Elsten, 97.3 The Fan. 10:24 on 97.3 The Fan, Annie and Elsten show here. Annie Halbrin, joined by Braden Suprenant. Craig Elsten is out today. Baseball coverage on 97.3 The Fan is presented by T-Mobile. Head to T-Mobile.com and get a great deal on an iPhone 16 Pro. Gotten a lot of comments in the chat, and I'm not going to address them all, but I get everyone's frustration. I want to be clear that I completely understand that this is a difficult time. I do want to address any kind of non-factual things I see. I see one comment that the brothers were never around. That's not true. I've seen the brothers there. John Seidler, who I've talked to several people within the building, is at almost every home game and has been for a while now, he and his wife. But the other brothers are there as well. So certainly Sheil is there too. But I just, want to make sure that we're trying to, again, address that there are two sides to this, and it's tough, right? I mean, it's just never easy to be kind of children of divorce, right? And what's going on. But hopefully, while this hums in the background, hopefully the end result is a good thing for Padres fans, whatever that means, right? Padres fans are really the ones that you want to take care of in this situation. And I'm sure everybody in the building at Petco Park knows that, right? You got FanFest coming up on February 1st. Is that right? February 1st? I feel like that's right.
Yes, that would be correct.
You've got spring training starting just a few weeks after that. This is not going to go away, but baseball is also going to be played, and moves are going to get made, and AJ Preller is going to make some moves. So again, hopefully we're able to just kind of run both courses and fans still feel the love, which I'm sure they will, from players and from the organization. But I get it. I get that it's a tough time. We are going to talk to Adrian Gonzalez, switching topics here in a second, in about 10 minutes. Looking forward to having him on, Braden. He is being honored at the 77th Salute to Champions event on Monday, put on by the San Diego Sports Association. And he is being honored along with Sharday Houston, a WNBA player from San Diego, and Jake Peavy, who we're going to have on the show tomorrow. So excited to talk to both of them. Adrian Gonzalez, look, a long, long history here in San Diego. And I hope people know this, and I'll talk to him about it. He did not want to leave.
Yes.
He did not want to get traded. I mean, he was very upset or not traded. I think he was a free agent, and they weren't bringing him back. They didn't even offer him a contract. Boston ended up picking him up, but he did not want to leave San Diego.
He didn't want to leave. He wanted to be here, but he also at the same time, and this is fans don't want to hear this ever, but the reality of the situation is he has obligations to the Players Association just as much as he has, for his own being. And when at the time he was the top first baseman in Major League Baseball, had to set the market, and then the Players Association gets on these guys if they take hometown discounts. And that's the case with all these players. It's you don't get Tony Gwynn all the time, right?
Yeah.
That just, he'll do whatever it takes to stay here. It's just that that's why you don't see these longtime guys that have played with one organization for so long. It's just, it's not a thing. It's very rare that happens unless you can pay him a lot of money early where they can still relatively set the market. But, he has an obligation to the Players Association just as much as he does, for himself and for trying to stay in his own town. And if the Padres couldn't put that money forward at that time, then it wasn't going to happen and he was going to have to move on. I mean, it's the business side of sports, right? I mean, and the thing is people, it's easy to criticize. They're like, why don't you just stay? But that's the same thing. It's like, why don't you just stay at the company you currently work at that gave you a shot when the other company wants to double how much you make?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you would leave immediately. You'd be like, yeah, see ya. Like, what am I loyal to these guys for? So it's the business side of things. It upsets a lot of fans. I think the fact that he ended up with the Dodgers, upsets a lot of fans. It's not like he had really a say in the matter for a lot of these things. And to be mad at an athlete for just for leaving a place, because he wasn't going to get paid enough, it's ridiculous. It's a two-way street on the business side of things. But Adrian Gonzalez, a longtime San Diegan, right, out of East Lake High School, did a lot for this community, still does. It'd be great to talk to him here in a couple minutes.
Yeah, did a ton for this community. In fact, there were articles written when he left about how his generosity in the community was going to go away because he was so involved in philanthropic efforts in the communities. So we'll get into all that. And yeah, like just to Braden's point, ownership had come into a different time then. I mean, it was much different than it was now.
Way different.
The entire payroll was $40 million. $40 million the year Adrian Gonzalez was gone. His contract was something like $22 million a year for 7 years. Like, it was more than the entire payroll for the Padres, right? So to Braden's point, it's like, what can you do? I mean, he wished the Padres would have spent some more money at the time and kept him for sure, but it wasn't going to happen. So looking forward to talking to him. And like we said, talking to Jake Peavy tomorrow. So we'll get into all of that. We've got some more Padres talk coming up in the 11 a.m. hour. We're going to also touch on the NFL, college football, some funny stuff that's gone on in locally and with football too over the last 24, 48 hours. So we'll get into all of that. But looking forward to talking to Adrian and Braden. We got to talk a little bit about Jackson Merrill too. Not right now. We'll get into it at 11. He was named the number 2 center fielder in the MLB top 10 list.
Yeah, number 2 center fielder on that particular list. I think he was number 1 on a different list, but he's definitely in the top 2 for most of these lists. And a lot of questions that come with that when it comes to the San Diego Padres. But good for Jackson being honored like that. And it's a nice spot to be in for the Padres when you're trying to save a little money here and there with all the contracts you've already handed out.
Yeah.
The fact that you got a top center fielder in Major League Baseball at a very important position, making league minimum, it's going to go a long way. So
exactly.
We got a lot to break down with that later on the show.
All right, when we come back, we will talk to Adrian Gonzalez, get his thoughts on being inducted into the Breitbart Hall of Fame, the San Diego Hall of Fame, and a whole lot more. Stay with us right here, 97.3 The Fan. 10:37 on a Wednesday right here on 97.3 The Fan, Annie and Elsten show. Craig Elsten out today. Annie Halbrin joined by Braden Soprenin as we're taking you all the way through 2 p.m., turning the reins over to Tony Gwynn Jr. and Chris Ello. They'll take you through to what I believe will be the Scraby show today. And I also think that we have a Inside Baseball with Sam Levitt happening tonight. So a ton of live and local coverage right here on 97.3 The Fan. We appreciate all of you being with us. And I appreciate this next guest for being with us and also being part of a big event on Monday as he's getting inducted into the Breitbart Hall of Fame, the San Diego Hall of Fame. The plaques are inside Petco Park in the Western Metal Supply Building. Joined right now by Adrian Gonzalez, former Padres great, baseball great. Adrian, how's it going? How's everything going on in your end?
It's going. I live here in LA right now, and pretty much the city's on fire. So that's been a tough evening last night into this morning, hearing all our friends that have been evacuated. But under those circumstances, I am honored to be inducted into the Breitbart Hall of Fame and to have a plaque at Petco Park. That is a very special, prestigious award for me, and it means the world.
Yeah, Adrian, we appreciate you being with us right now. And we were just talking about the fires, honestly, just to jump back there for a second, because my heart goes out to you guys. I mean, that is a very scary situation. Seeing the news coverage about it has been, really, really tragic, obviously. Are they close to you? Are you having to evacuate, or what's going on with your family?
Thank God we are fine. We're in an area where it is not, in any danger at the moment. But just getting videos from family or from friends and people that we love, that we call family, that are being evacuated. It's really, really tough to see.
Yeah, it is scary indeed. And we're thinking about you guys, and we hope that, things turn out for the best, but absolutely understand that, your head is in a different place right now with that. And appreciate you coming on with us regardless of that happening. But if at any time you need to go, of course, just jump off the phone. Adrian, I wanted to start back, with your childhood, because it's so interesting to me. You grew up in San Diego, but you grew up in Tijuana as well. You were a cross-border kid. I read that you would play games sometimes, Little League games, in Chula Vista, and then in the afternoon play them in Mexico, or vice versa, right? And then when you were a student at Eastlake, you were also playing in a Mexican league, and you were kind of being forced to grow a little bit as a player during that, kind of playing with semi-pro guys. Can you kind of take us through that a little bit? Like, what was that like growing up? And I'm sure to you it seemed probably kind of normal.
Yeah, for sure. To me, the best way to describe, my childhood is you were to see or experience a few years back when you had Eastlake Little League in the Little League World Series, and you had the Tijuana Municipal, which is where I played in Tijuana. Both of the teams were in the Little League World Series, and they were no more than 4 or 5 miles apart from each other, and once in Mexico, once in the U.S. That was, pretty much my childhood once we moved to the U.S. We lived in Tijuana, grew up in Tijuana until I was 11 years old. And then at the, age of 11, came to the U.S., went to 5th grade in elementary school in the 4th grade, 5th grade, and started playing Little League in the U.S. And when you do that, I've played Little League my whole life in Tijuana. You end up playing on both sides of the border. And like you said, we had a game Saturday morning in one of the two spots, and then Saturday afternoon in the other one, or vice versa, and the same thing for Sundays. And so being able to play more games than most, obviously, baseball is a game of repetition and practice, and the more you do it, the better you get at it, was something that was amazing. And then, like you mentioned, when I was in high school, during the high school season, you play high school, but once high school season's over, you go play back in Tijuana, and at that age, at 15 years old, all you have is a semi-pro league that is very, very competitive. The best way to explain how competitive it is, Mexico, for professional baseball, has 2 leagues. You have a summer league that has 16 teams, and then you have a winter league that has 8 teams. In the winter, which is, what we're in now, from October through which is fall through the winter, you only have 8 teams in the Mexican Winter League. So 8 teams, so you're talking about 240 players don't have a job. So they have to go play in these semi-pro leagues to stay in shape for the summer. And those are the type of players you're playing against. You're playing against professional Mexican players, which is when we are not playing in high school. So the winter part, the fall and winter part of the semi-pro league in Tijuana is highly, highly competitive. So when you're a 15-year-old kid and you're playing against a professional player, you're facing a professional pitcher, that makes you have to be like, well, I got to see these pitchers and I got to compete. And so that really helped me grow as a player going into my junior and senior year in high school.
No doubt about it. It's so interesting. And I mean, although you weren't drafted by the Padres, you ended up getting traded to the Padres. And that moment, I mean, that year you were, I believe you were your early 20s, 24, and you're playing, like you've got teammates around you. You've got Trevor Hoffman, Vinny Castilla, Dave Roberts. You had Brian Giles, David Wells. Bruce Bochy was your manager. You know, what are you thinking when you're now playing for your hometown team and you've got that kind of clubhouse, those kind of guys around you?
Yeah, I always tell everybody that was my favorite season of my entire career. Being able to play with so many players I looked up to growing up, Padre legends that I looked up to when I was in high school, and you mentioned all those amazing names. Greg Maddux was a part of that team.
Yeah.
You know, Jake being able to play alongside Jake Peavy.
Yes.
Josh Barfield, who's an executive now. I mean, there was just a great group of guys, and I'm missing a bunch still. You know, Scott Linebrink and a bunch of other players that really became good friends. And so for me, just having that group of guys was just special. And being able to do it in San Diego, my first season in San Diego, you know, pretty much a rookie. I spent 2 seasons with the Rangers prior to that, but I didn't get to play many games in the big leagues. And so, you know, I felt like a rookie, and it was just so much fun to be there. And just be a part of that team that ended up, you know, winning the division and going to the playoffs.
Yeah. We're talking to Adrian Gonzalez, former Padre, being inducted into the Breitbart Hall of Fame on Monday, right here on 97.3 The Fan. And Adrian, I kind of want to get into leaving San Diego because I know how much San Diego meant to you. It's a really special place in your heart, and the Padres, how much the Padres meant to you as well. And I can think back to that time, but I'd love to hear it from your angle, what it was like for you to go through that time, because I remember all the rumors that were circulating and all the talk about your contract and what was going to happen with you. And at that point, you had done so much for the Padres. You know, you'd set records. You had been such a big integral part of the team. No one wanted to see you go. And I don't think you even wanted to go. But you were traded, right? And it was kind of a messy situation. And I was just talking about in the last segment how that was such a different time of ownership, right? I mean, the ownership group spent $40 million on the roster that year as a whole. I mean, the entire roster, you know, and that is just not a feasible thing when you have superstar players. Unfortunately, you know, you want the ownership group to keep them, but they're not always going to do it, you know? And so what was that like for you during that time when you started realizing, hey, I might not be able to continue my next chapter here in San Diego, and what went through your mind during that time in your talks with your agent?
Yeah, you know, it was definitely, like you said, it was a time that was very confusing and very tough for me. You know, I never wanted to leave. I wanted to stay, and you know, there was never really an effort from the ownership group to sign me. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you know, they were going to put out to the media what they wanted to spin it, to make it seem like they're the good guys in this whole equation. But like you said, they weren't prepared to offer a contract, which they didn't. They weren't prepared to even have a conversation about, you know, what's a hometown discount, because they weren't even in position or willing to go with the hometown discount, you know, conversation. Yeah. So, but you know, obviously my agent prepared me for that. He said, like, listen, they're not going to offer you anything. They're going to spin it. They're going to do what they got to do, you know, to save face with the fans. And you're going to look like the bad guy. So just know and be prepared for that. And so, you know, we went into it understanding that. And unfortunately, you know, they succeeded in doing that at the moment. And so it was a very tough time. You know, I had one sit down with the owner at the time, and he basically said, you know, we can't, we're not going to be able to even offer you a contract because we don't have the financial means for it. Mm. And then they asked my agent for a meeting so they could, you know, put it out to the media. And my agent showed up, and, you know, the conversation was, hey, John, we're going to have one sentence about Adrian, and then we're going to talk about something else. Oh. And so they had one comment about me as far as, how am I feeling and what am I doing, blah, blah, blah. And then they had lunch without even talking about anything else. And then obviously the next day it's like, oh, we had a conversation with Adrian's agent, and they don't want to sign or something. So it was a tough moment, and I've been trying to explain things to the fans for a long time, but obviously once it's put out there in a different light, there's not much you can do when it comes to public opinion.
Yeah, it's so frustrating, although I love to talk about it because of what you just said. You deserve to get that out there, especially we see it happen these days even. In different contract talks or different levels of money or whatever. But certainly when you are kind of powerless in a conversation and you know that your time might be coming to an end, it's not a fun feeling. Another thing that I think fans remember about you, and I know I remember about you as well, you were so involved in the community and you were part of so many philanthropic efforts, and like covering baseball for so long, or even covering the NFL too. Guys, sometimes you're kind of forced to do some stuff, right? Like they ask you to do some stuff and you oblige and you go and you do it. And then there are players who do it because they want to do it. And they don't have a ton of time. They don't have a ton of, availability, but they make it happen, and you were one of those guys. There was a dozen more, philanthropic charities and people and whatnot here in San Diego who had a hand, with you helping them or donating money or being part of their mission. A, how hard was that too, to kind of leave that? But B, that's always been important to you, it seems like. Like, is that just the way you were raised? Is that something that you decided when you became a player you wanted to give back? Like, why has that been such a big part of your life?
Yeah, I have, very, very giving parents. They're always, willing to do anything for anybody. And so that was part of how I was raised. Then I married my incredible wife. When I met her in middle school, we started dating in high school. There in Chula Vista, and she went to Benito Vista High School, and one of her dreams was to be able to have an orphanage and help kids that were in need. And so with her upbringing and her incredible love for giving and kindness, and the way I was raised with my parents, it's like you put the two of us and we both love to just give and or we're both faithful, givers, and it just fills our heart when you see somebody, have that big smile when you're able to help them out. So for us, it was always huge to be a part of the community, especially, the community you grew up in. We were able to take, those efforts into Boston and LA after that. And we still have both the San Diego and the LA scholarship program running. And so for us, it's very important to always give back and be a part of the community because, as a man of faith, Jesus calls us to serve and be there for others.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. Well, listen, even though it did not work out, as hoped for with the Padres, you had an amazing career, 15 years, incredible numbers, a ton to be proud of. First San Diegan chosen with the first overall pick in the draft, 5 All-Stars, 4 Gold Gloves, 2 Silver Sluggers. I can continue on with all the stats, but you know them all, Adrian, so I don't have to. But, for you to be inducted into the Breitbart Hall of Fame and to just kind of continue to serve this community as well, what does it mean to you to have that honor?
Oh, it's an incredible honor. It's very special. It really does mean a lot. Growing up a Padres fan and being able to play for the Padres was one of the most special things. As a kid, I always said, I want to play for the Padres. I'm going to play for the Padres, and being able to do that and being able to do it in front of my friends, my family, the city, the fans. It was just so much good. And I'm just, like I said, I'm incredibly honored, and it really does mean a ton to me. And I'm really honored and thankful for the people that made the decision to induct me.
Yeah, and Adrian, in the last minute we have left, you are covering the Dodgers, and obviously I've had part of your career with the Dodgers, but you've seen now what's transformed Petco Park and the amount of fans that come there now, and the sold out crowds, and you've also seen this National League West and how competitive it's gotten. What's just your thoughts on the resurgence in the National League West and what's happening here?
It's such a fun division to watch. You have teams that are all in right? They're not holding back. And when you have multiple teams that are all in and they all want it, and last year we got to see the Dodgers, the Padres, the Diamondbacks, go for it and do what needed to be done to compete and be in it. It just makes it so much fun to watch and so incredible. and I hope it continues. I know the Dodgers ownership is going to continue to invest in the team. They continue to do it this offseason. I hope the Padres ownership continues to do the same thing to keep that team as competitive as it has been the last few years. And it's good to see the Giants with Buster Posey running the team now, that looking like they're going to want to get into the action. And the Diamondbacks have a great team as well, and they continue to acquire players. They just got Corbin Burns, so this is the division to be a fan of, because even though you have teams that are powerhouses, it's still baseball and anybody can win. It comes down to playing the game right and doing things right, and so. That's the beauty about baseball. I tell everybody, it's like talent doesn't win you games in baseball. It's how you play. There's other sports where talent can win the game for you even if you don't play great. But baseball's not like that. You have to go out there and play the game and play it right.
Absolutely agree. Thank you so much for taking the time, Adrian. Stay safe out there with the fires. Hope your family and friends stay safe as well. And we will see you Monday at the Salute to Champions. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
All right. Take care. Great to talk to him, Braden. I mean, again, just such a legacy in San Diego for sure, but throughout baseball, I mean, you can't get through that kind of career, the ups and the downs and the trials and the tribulations, without having, some backbone and some ability to navigate adversity, because that's what he had to do in many situations there.
Yeah, a lot of things that, we always talk about as coaches of being able to control what you can control the controllables, and there's a lot of things when you get to that level that you have no control over. You have no control over being traded. You have no control over sometimes where you're going to play or where things are at, and you just got to focus on making the most of your opportunities when you get them, and lead that to what you can, and the best put careers together that Adrian did, and that's why he's getting the honor that he's getting.
Exactly. And I mean, you can't help it. If they're not going to sit down and talk to you, you don't have a discussion, right? All right, we come back. More Padres talk on the other side. Keep it right here. Annie and Elsten, 97.3 The Fan. 11 a.m. on a Wednesday, taking you through to 2 p.m. here on Annie and Elsten on 97.3 The Fan, San Diego's #1 sports station. I'm Annie Heilbrunn, joined by Braden Surprenant. Craig Elsten is out today. Getting ready for hour number 2 of the program. We talked quite a bit about the lawsuit going on over there at Petco Park, or between the members of the Seidler family, in the 10 a.m. hour. Going to get to a little bit more baseball talk in this hour and take a look around the league as well. So we'll do all of that. Braden, I can't believe that it's 5 weeks? Like, what's the date today? What are we on? January 8th. So pitchers and catchers are going to report, 5 weeks from now, essentially. I mean, it's coming up.
When's the official date? They've been getting closer and closer to the Super Bowl the last couple of years.
Yeah, they have. I don't have the official date on me, but
last year was
it's
like the day
around the 11th or 12th, or after the
last
Super Bowl.
Last year was the day after the Super Bowl, but that's because the Padres and Dodgers were playing in Korea last year. I'm looking up today. I'm looking up this year's dates. I don't know if they've put all of them out or not. But yeah, it gets here faster than you think. You get through the NFL playoffs, and it's like you got maybe like a week, and then you're right into Padres baseball live from Peoria.
Yes.
And then so you can really just start to focus in on the actual baseball aspect of the San Diego Padres instead of some other stuff that obviously has been in the news. But it's interesting. We're getting closer and closer. This is the kind of the downtime of the season, of the offseason, where teams kind of control their spending a little bit and wait to see if some of the prices of some of these players that are still available go down. In order to try to make some deals right before spring training. And that's usually when the team-friendly deals come in and A.J. Preller can start working some of his magic. But you mentioned, I want to talk about this article you put in with Jeff Passan, but we did mention the 10 top 10 center fielders.
Yes.
With Jackson Merrill.
Yeah.
And Merrill comes in at number 2 on the list, behind Julio Rodriguez, according to MLB.com, the top 10 center fielders right now. Julio Rodriguez, Jackson Merrill, Byron Buxton, Michael Harris II, Mike Trout, Brandon Marsh, Dalton Varsho, Garrett Mitchell, O'Neal Cruz, Luis Robert Jr.
Yes.
Out of that group, would you say that Jackson Merrill, where would you put him in the 10? If you had to take one of those players to be your center fielder this year, which player are you taking?
Well, I'm taking Jackson Merrill to be my center fielder. Yes. I don't mind him being number 2. I mean, I don't know in terms of like, should he be number 1? Julio Rodriguez is a very good player, but I don't know that I'd put him any lower than where he's at. I mean, 1 or 2, even in that list, it's a good list, but we're talking like center fielder who can hit too, right? I mean, we're talking
it's all around,
right? Exactly, got to be all around.
I mean, Julio had a down year last year in comparison to what he had been doing.
That's true.
For a long period of time, he was one of the younger players. Byron Buxton, this guy gets hurt a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Harris II, I think is up there in the top center fielders. I think him and Jackson are relatively close in terms of who would you rather have in center field on your team.
Obviously, Mike Trout is
such
a league
courtesy
of his own.
at this
I know.
Point. I mean, the poor guy has been able to play for a long time.
Exactly. Like, what do you do with Mike Trout? I mean, he's Mike Trout, but he's also been hurt so much, right?
Yeah, Mike Trout's at his full game.
It's hard to put him in a list, I think.
Yeah,
but anyways,
it's hard to put him on the list. I mean,
they did, but
if you have Mike Trout full go, it obviously changes some things. But the fact that Jackson Merrill is getting this kind of recognition after one season is very, very important for the San Diego Padres in terms of the future star that they have. But, would you say he's the best center fielder in the game? I mean, I think he's up there. I think you can make the argument for Rodriguez. I think you can make the argument for Harris, Buxton with his injuries. Brandon Marsh has done a good job. I think I'd rather have Merrill than Marsh. He definitely would rather have Merrill than Varsho, Mitchell, Cruz, and Robert.
Yeah.
I think that starts to fall off a little bit. It's hard to turn down Mike Trout, but the way he's been playing, not being up to par, maybe that's you go the young route with Jackson Merrill. I think probably in the top 3 is relatively. I think you could go anywhere with those top 4 players. You could seed it anyway.
I was just going to agree wholeheartedly with that. I mean, you could see Jackson Merrill at the top of this list. The arguments you just made, even, like, you could see him being number one, and that's what's crazy. I mean, here's a guy, he's a rookie, and I think that I have hesitation because of that, and it's probably a bias on my part where I'm like, well, he's a rookie, had a great year, and there should really be no but. I mean, we're talking about the top center fielder from 2024 and what they're, projecting going into maybe 2025, or kind of like looking at that cumulatively, right? So he's there. I mean, he can contend with Julio Rodriguez, even if you looked at the numbers from last year. So he might be the best center fielder. He's going to obviously, as we know in sports, it's a what have you done for me lately league in all sports, right? So he's going to have to do it again this year, get close to it. But it says a lot that he is at the top of this list. No doubt about it.
It does say a lot, and the good news is for the Padres is he's on a league minimum right now. The bad news for the Padres, if you start listing some of these players and the contracts that they have, it's going to get very expensive to try to keep a guy like Jackson Merrill. So that makes the question, does this make it more difficult to re-sign Merrill to a long-term deal? With this, it's not just the ranking. I mean, obviously he's got to get through his sophomore season, which we've seen a lot of teams or a lot of players take a little bit of a lull, but if he continues to play at the level he's playing at, is he going to play himself out of San Diego with the contracts the Padres have already signed if they don't strike as soon as they possibly can?
I mean, Jackson is a tricky one because we heard him last year at the end of the season. He said it very publicly. He wants to be a Padre for the rest of his life. Now, yes, that was an emotional kind of comment in a post-game celebration filled with champagne and beer and all of that.
And that's what every player says in the first organization they've played for especially if they make some type of impact, right?
For sure. And
they're never going to be like, yeah, I got to get out.
No. Well, yeah, exactly. They're not Tyreek over there.
That's right, Tyreek Hill.
with the Dolphins, yeah. But I do believe Jackson loves being in San Diego. He loves his teammates. I also think that Jackson is the type of guy who loves to play baseball and is probably going to love his teammates and being wherever he is because he gets to play baseball. But no doubt about it, he does want to stay in San Diego. It is not, though, a situation where I think he's taking some kind of discount. I really don't. I mean,
I don't think you're going to see anybody take a discount ever. In this day and age,
and you can't blame him for that.
No, it's not.
No.
Because like we said with Adrian Gonzalez,
yeah.
And the reason, and again, I think people thought that he left in free agency. It's not the case. They tried to offer him, and then he had a year left, and so the fact that they couldn't sign him, they decided to trade him instead because they weren't going to sign him to a contract extension. But he has obligations to the Players Association just as much as every other player does with setting the market. Same thing with Ohtani setting the market. Same thing with Juan Soto setting the market. There's not going to be a situation in which any player is taking a discount for any team that they are a part of. The days of Tony Gwynn doing that are over in this day and age of professional sports and in business as a whole. But you are able to get guys on cheaper deals if they
craftier deals
by making them an offer they can't refuse with guaranteed money during times that they're making league minimum or buying them out of arbitration years, which the Braves have done. And on the list is Michael Harris II, and his contract is obviously very affordable and something that we have brought up multiple times of like he had a great year and his rookie year, and they decided to give him a contract extension, and he's getting paid $9 million towards the AAV for the next 7 seasons, whatever it is. He's paid through 2030, and he's got club options in 31 and 32, costing the Braves $9 million towards their luxury tax threshold.
Yeah, it's an incredible deal. I mean, the Braves made some really team-friendly deals, almost to the point where I'm like, what happened in these meetings? You know what I mean? Like, what happened with some of these deals?
Offer you can't refuse.
Yeah, exactly.
Because money is worth more today than it will be in the future, right? So it's like, do you want $700? Andy, we're going to pay you $700,000 for the next couple of years, or I could give you $8 million a year for the next couple of years, and but we're buying you out of some of your free agent years too. You got guaranteed money. He's got guaranteed $72 million. What is that going to do to your life?
But here's the thing about Jackson Merrill, and I think it's probably true for all these guys, but it depends on kind of how you're being counseled and all that. Because I agree with you. You see those kinds of numbers in front of you, and you could get an injury, you could have a down year, things just might not go your way. Like, it is a very fickle game. And these guys know it, whether you're old, you're young, 1 second you're on top of the world and the next second you're in the gutter. So that's how baseball is, right? And so it is very tempting. And from what we know and what's been reported, the two sides already tried to make a deal before he started to play last season, right? So that probably says the deal was probably a little too low. And that might be the case again this year, where if you're Jackson Merrill, I mean, the guy is definitely confident. He is definitely confident. He probably feels like he is going to be able to get maybe a more lucrative number that isn't necessarily like taking, robbing a team or whatever. I mean, that's not even possible, right? But a number that is maybe more fair with what he believes he can do going forward, But
it's a tricky game.
It's tempting.
It's
I know.
a tricky
it's
game
tricky,
because
yeah.
you got to, it's like you said, it's like the stock market. You got to buy low, you got to sell high. Right now, you'd be buying high because of the season that Merrill had. Right, you'd be buying you'd be buying it at its peak right now with his career. This is the best he has played in his career. It's only been a year.
Yeah.
He was up there for Rookie of the Year. I think a lot of people believe that he deserved to win said Rookie of the Year. And when you're thinking about buying low is when you give him a contract offer like they did in Milwaukee with Jackson. Was it Jackson Churio? In Milwaukee,
yes,
where they decided to pay him before he even made the bigs. Now, the risk there is he comes up and he's not very good. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden you're out $82 million for 8 years for a player that, might turn into one of the prospects that the Padres promised a long time ago that never panned out. I mean, you can use whatever name that you would like. So instead, you take the risk if you decide to do that. Your risk is he doesn't pan out. If you decide to wait and he plays at a high level, now all of a sudden the price is going to go up and you're not getting it for the price that you necessarily want. So you got to wait another year and see if Merrill goes down a little bit. But the risk you take is if you want to buy that stock and it continues to go up and you keep waiting for the dip, you might run out of time before it gets to a point that you can afford the dip. And if it continues to go up, maybe you panic buy and then you miss the dip. So it's an interesting play. I mean, and A.J. Preller's got to play a difficult game with that. I would imagine. I think the window of opportunity to try to get him to a long-term deal locked in before is over until you wait for this second season to play out. And if he comes back down to earth a little bit, strike while the iron's hot, get him under contract, if he has a frustrating year. And I'm not saying the Padres are going to root against Jackson Merrill. Obviously they don't, because him playing at a high level and not making a lot of money is still a win for the Padres.
Yeah.
But if you know he's going to be good long-term and you want him part of this organization, this is going to be an interesting game to monitor with A.J. Preller and the San Diego Padres.
And the thing is that they have him, though. They have him for the next, 6 years? 5 years, 6 years?
He's got, he's got five left.
5, okay.
Now after last year, he's still making league minimum. He'll get pre-arb 26. He'll get arbitration through 29. He's a free agent in 2030.
Okay. So, obviously his price is going to go up there per year. And that's where the Padres would want to, come to a deal and make it more palatable for them also. And it gives Jackson a great deal of money, and it also gives him some more stability. But
that's if you want him at past 2030,
right.
which I would imagine most Padres fans do.
Right.
And if you wait until then all of a sudden you're going to have to hand out if he continues to play at the level, you're going to have to hand out like a Fernando contract. But
what you don't know, too, and what makes this difficult and our exercise difficult is, what are the Padres' finances, and can they do this? And are they eyeing a window where they're hoping, okay, well, we're really going to be able to lift our offer in this year, and hopefully it will still be something that, coincides with his performance or whatever. But
the CBA.
And the CBA coming in. How does the CBA influence Jackson, or how will the players union influence Jackson in terms of like you are, just like we talked about with Adrian, these are big, they are questions. It's not as simple as see deal, take deal. There's other influences going on all the time.
You got the fan influence too. The more, the better he plays, the more the fans want him to stay in San Diego forever. The more he obviously talks about it, fans are going to be on his side. I mean, it's a difficult job to be a president of baseball and a general manager that A.J. Preller has to deal with on each and going year. But you know what? You love the fact that he gets the recognition, and now Padres fans are just trying to find ways for the team to be able to keep him long term.
Yeah, and I do think that you do have to exercise a little patience, not necessarily with the deal. I understand where you're coming from on that. But in terms of he has had one amazing year. And like I said, it sometimes it's a roller coaster, right? It's up and it's down, and who knows what's going on. So with Jackson, I think that there is the promise, the potential of another guy who's just going to be just like Manny or Tatis or even better. Who knows? And I mean that by like level of performance, right? Like someone you can depend on year after year after year. And I'm excited to watch Jackson Merrill in his sophomore season. Like just knowing what he went through this season, and he was like full steam ahead. Like he never really took a breath. And then at the very end of the season, he's like, you could tell it all just kind of caught up with him, you know? And so for him to have a full off season and start to figure out how am I going to prepare my body and how's my body going to work now for these back-to-back, full seasons where they're hopefully going into October.
Not have to worry about trying to make a big league club. He's already part of the big league club, and he knows what it's like to be a pro working with the pros.
That's a great
for
point.
a long time. I mean, it opens up a lot of things.
He's already a leader. He's already got that capability. How does that grow in him? All that.
I want to transition into the Jeff Passan article. He put together some things that will actually lead to our next topic about Luis Arraez.
Yes, and I just want to touch briefly. We'll get to it sometime this hour. I see Charisma putting it in the chat about Martin Perez. Okay, I am as sad as they come to see Martin Perez being scooped up by another team. It looks like scooped up by the White Sox.
$3.5 million for 25, $1.5 buyout on a $10 million 2026 mutual option, $5 million guaranteed. Robert Murray was first. John Heyman.
Stop. 3.5 this year for 2025,
with
and
a
then
1.5 buyout on a $10 million 2026 mutual option.
So they've both got to agree. So the team has to agree to bring him back for $10 million. They probably, look, they probably won't. Okay, but unless he's like a great fit,
he essentially gets They basically signed him to a 1 year, $5 million deal. He gets $5 million regardless, and then if he pitches out of his mind and the White Sox want to bring him back for $10 million, and Martin Perez doesn't think he's going to get more somewhere else and he wants to come back, then they'll take the $10 million. But I don't think they're going to. I don't think the $10 million is going to happen for either side on that part. But
so 1 year, $5 million. It's a little hard for me. This one's a little hard for me. Because the Padres do still need pitching. They need to round out their rotation. Doesn't matter if they get Roki Sasaki. Doesn't matter, if they get another frontline pitcher. Like, that's a guy who will give you innings all year long. Left-handed pitcher. Seemed like a good fit for them to continue with. But again, I don't know. I mean, maybe this was money for $5 million. Maybe they just didn't want to allocate the $5 million that place. But maybe they just felt he wasn't a good fit for them. I mean, that's the only thing I could think of after what happened in the playoffs.
Maybe they think they could get more out of Brian Hoeing, who's getting league minimum.
Yeah.
Right? Or some of these other players that, give a chance to a Matt Walton, who's making league minimum, or a Johnny Brito of the world that is making league minimum. Adrian Morejon expected to get $1.8 million in arbitration. I mean, these are all way cheaper contracts than 3.5. Not all of them can be in the starting rotation. So if you bring him in for $5 million and it doesn't work out, now you're out $5 million. Yeah. So there's more to it than just like a cheap contract, right? Maybe they think that some of the guys that they have are better and they can spend that $5 million elsewhere instead of taking an insurance policy out.
Well, I so long Martin Perez. He was great to have in the clubhouse. He was great around the other guys. So we'll see what happens with the rest of this rotation. We'll get into it more after the break, and then Braden, we're also going to get into this Jeff Passan article, right?
Jeff Passan that leads to, is Luis Arraez going to be wearing pinstripes?
Oh, is Luis Arraez going to be a Yankee?
I don't know about that. We'll talk about it when we come back.
All right. Keep it right here, 97.3 The Fan, Annie and Elsten Show. Did you know you can listen to 97.3 The Fan with your smart speaker? Ask your device to play 97.3 The Fan and give it a shot.
Alexa, play 97.3 The Fan.
Boop, boop, boop. Hey, it's Annie and Elsten and Braden.
Alexa, set an alarm for 6 a.m. and play Ben and Woods.
Alexa, buy some Q-tips.
Okay, don't.
Oh!
No, too far.
They're not expensive, at least.
I'm not spending your money. I'm just getting your alarm set. I did that one time. My brother's got an Alexa. I was like, Alexa, set an alarm for 3 a.m.
Did it do it?
Oh yeah, of course it did.
I've never had an Alexa. I mean, I have my Siri on my phone, but I've never had like the stick or whatever, like the device.
Yeah.
Do you have one?
I have an Alexa.
Oh, okay. Do you call her Alexa? Can you name her anything you want?
I think you can.
Okay.
I haven't tried with it. I mean, I basically just use it as a speaker. Is basically what I use it for, and like sometimes alarms when I don't trust my phone to wake me up for certain things.
Do you ever say to it, play 97 through the fan?
Of course.
Okay.
Because my smart speaker can do that. You know, especially with my area being able to stream the Padre games, I could be able to do that.
I think that would actually be pretty funny if you went to your brother's house and you just told Alexa to like buy a lot of stuff or set a lot of alarms or play a certain type of music or something. You know,
I should do that at all my buddies' houses.
Yeah, oh, yeah, that's what you should do.
My buddy Mike, it's his birthday. It was his birthday on Monday. We're going out tonight for his birthday. I might do that at his house. Walk in and he's got like a Google thing or whatever. He's got a smart speaker. I just might have it set an alarm or something, or have it play 97 through the fan at 10.
There you go.
Every day.
Exactly. Every day, right? Like make it.
But he's
like
working
that.
from home. Wait a minute. Is Braden at my house right now? No, I'm at work.
What happened to Braden had a Christmas tree in the back of his truck.
Oh, I got rid of it yesterday.
What happened to the Christmas tree?
I dropped it off. I ran a bunch of errands for my brother yesterday since I was borrowing his truck. I get my car back today, thank the Lord.
Your adulting is coming to an end with the
well,
car.
I got to be at the DMV tomorrow.
Okay, that's right.
Get my real ID. My adulting ends on Friday at this point. I had to go. So yesterday I went. I had the Christmas tree that my brother picked up for, he's got his own little Christmas tree pickup business for $20 that he does. He drives around San Diego, picks up Christmas trees and drops them off.
Is your brother older or younger than you?
He's younger than me.
Younger.
I'm the oldest of three.
So that's a good little gig, right?
Side hustle. A lot of kids do that.
And I wouldn't want to do that. I would want someone to come pick it up for me.
For all the parents that want to have their kids during their Christmas break go to work, it's a great little business.
Yeah.
For the kids that are back from college. So he did it when he was in college, and now he does it now. He puts flyers out and stuff, and he'll pick up your Christmas tree for, I think it's $20 or whatever. And then he throws in his truck, and then he makes a couple deliveries a day while he's on days he doesn't work or after work. So Monday night, I got home from softball late, and there was a Christmas tree sitting in the back of his truck, and I totally forgot I had to take his truck the next day. And so I went to Kearney Mesa Chevrolet to get my Camaro worked on, and they needed it for a couple days, whatever. And so my brother works across the street at Enterprise. And so I walk in, and I was going to borrow his truck, and there's a line, out the door, and they're frantically trying to help people get their cars. And I walk in, and my brother gives me, he's like, "Oh, here's your free rental car, sir." And he flips me my key, my brother's keys.
And that's it.
I catch it, I walk out, and he's like, "What?"
Pass
and he
the
was
line.
like, "That's my car. Don't worry about it." And I get out there, I'm like, "There's a Christmas tree sitting in the back of this truck. What is what?" I was like, "He didn't drop it off?" And so I drove, I went and get coffee, and I came to work, and it was sitting in the lot here at the Odyssey Empire. It's not even our Christmas tree. It's somebody's Christmas tree. Dead Christmas tree in the back of the truck.
I'm surprised he didn't say, since I'm allowing you to drive my truck around, go drop this Christmas tree off.
Yeah, he didn't, because
recycling farm or whatever.
After work, I went, I'd have to up my passport. I mean, all my IDs apparently expire this year, so I had to up my passport. I did the online application.
Who knows if you have to flee the country anytime soon, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I had to go get my passport photo taken with the Christmas. I still lugging the Christmas tree around. I'm like, you know what? I'm getting rid of this thing. So I knew where the drop off was. I dropped it off, and then I was like, well, I'm almost out of gas now, running all these errands in my brother's truck. Filled up his truck with gas.
Oh, that was nice.
And then I ended up picking him up in I borrowed my mom's car to pick him up because I don't really like driving his truck too much. And so I pick him up, and he was like, "What'd you do with the Christmas tree?" I'm like,
"Don't worry about it.
I dropped it off." He's like, "Are you going to ask for a fee?" And I'm like, "No, I don't. It's your $20, dude. You keep the time." I was tired of driving your Christmas tree around. But it was, I was sitting there waiting for him at Enterprise, right? He was finishing up, and had 3 people I had 3 people almost get into the car thinking it was their rental car.
Wow.
And I was like, no, this is not, go away. This is not
like
your car.
My brother's car.
Yeah, exactly. It was actually my mom's car that I drove.
Okay.
So I was able to get a ride today. Chevy's hooking me up with a ride to the dealership after work. Not even a car, like for just 24 hours.
It's rough.
I feel like I'm in high school again.
It's in a way.
Before you become of driving age and you have to ask for rides and stuff, it's miserable.
I know. It's so, like, when are you ever without a car these days, right? It's only like when your car's in a shop or.
Especially in California and states where you have to drive around. I mean, you really take it for granted the luxury it is to have your own vehicle.
Showed in the chat says rental car comes with a free Christmas tree.
Yeah,
you should have let someone else drive it.
Exactly.
And, carry around the Christmas tree. But yeah, I think it's kind of nice sometimes, like when, like, if your phone stops working or whatever, it's like, it's horrifying, right? You're like, what am I going to do without my phone or your car? But then, like, if you let go a little, you're like, this is kind of nice. I guess I'm just going to hang out, or not look at my phone or not drive around until you realize you have a lot of stuff to do or people to get back to and no way to do it, right? You got to beg for rides.
What would you rather be without for a week? A phone or a car?
Oh,
you still have to work and everything. It's like you have the week off. You have your phone, so you can negotiate rides. I think
that's what I was just
going
to say. I was going to say I'd be without my car because I can negotiate the rides, and you could still like DoorDash or Instacart with your phone, and you could Uber with your phone. Like there's a lot you could do with your phone. So I feel like I would go with my phone. Yeah, and
what if use your laptop?
That's true.
I'm just saying. I mean, there's other. I don't know.
Which one would you?
It's hard, like not being able to get places. Yeah. But if you had your phone, there's ways to move around. If you don't have your, if you don't have your phone, then you just have your car.
I guess if you had a car, you could go buy a new phone. Yeah,
right.
And that's that.
Could at that point. There was a time when we went up to Disneyland a couple of years ago, and there's a group of us, and one of my friend's buddy that came. We were driving up there. We met at my house, and he had left his phone in my buddy's car, parked at my house. And he didn't notice until we got past Camp Pendleton.
Oh, wow.
And the girl driving Kira was like, I'm not turning around for your phone. Like, you're either going to make it through the day at Disneyland without your phone. And she like worked for Disney, so there was like a bunch of discounts we were getting. So it was like almost like a free day at Disneyland.
Oh, wow.
And it was an NFL Sunday. And he was like, no, I need my phone. And so drove all the way up to Disneyland. We went in the park. He got an Uber back.
No.
Yes, he got an Uber back to his parents at the time were living in Orange County. Convinced his dad, who is a highway patrolman, on a Sunday to drive back down to San Diego where they used to live to get to my house, to get into my buddy's car, to get his phone, and then drive back up to Disneyland. The phone call he had with his dad about asking if he would do it was priceless.
I do not approve of this message.
I was dying.
Insane.
I was dying because his dad was like cutthroat, hard nosed. Like
he didn't need.
I understand. Like I understand. Like you don't have your phone, but how is this? He pulled the line that my dad would use on me. How is this my problem exactly?
Right.
Like he dropped that.
You forgot your phone.
So he made this guy like say he's like, well, I'm gonna go down there. I was like, fine, I'll do it, but you're doing it on my time. So the guy he went to church, he went to breakfast with his wife, like the guy's mom, and then he ended up getting back up to Disneyland like 4:30 in the afternoon.
But it's not like this guy that needed his phone. Like, did he need his phone for like emergency purposes?
He was like, well,
or he just wanted it?
He was like, I gotta big my fantasy and I gotta bet. I'm like, dude, betting on sports? Are you a degenerate?
If I'm dating you and you do that,
Oh my God.
All bets are off. I can't
believe I was like, you couldn't make it one day without your phone.
And you're at Disneyland. Just go have a good time. You'll
exactly.
live.
There's a group of us. It's not like he was gonna get just partner up. It's not like he was gonna get lost.
It's like he was gonna go get one of those little leashes, those human leashes, if like you're really scared.
Oh
right?
my God! I was like, I can't believe he finally got up there. I'm like, dude, it's like basically a free day. I mean, you just burned like a free day driving to and from Anaheim because he did the whole drive up there. And then he went back down to Orange County, and then he went back down to San Diego, and then he had to drive back from San Diego to Orange County. We had to get him through the security gate first anyway to get his ticket to go back to the Uber pickup in downtown Disney. What a nightmare. I'd rather just make it through the day without my phone. It almost happened to my buddy Mike when we went to the Holiday Bowl. He thought he left his phone in his car at his house. And I said, how bad do you need that phone? He's like, I might need to call my girlfriend to pick me up. And I'm like, nah. So we call his phone. It was, thank God it was in our kit. It was in the truck. I could probably make it a day without the phone at that point.
Oh man, that is something. That's a story. I mean, that's like, I can't imagine being like, okay, now I'm going to drive all the way back and then drive all the way back to Disneyland and then be like, oh, I got my phone.
Just thinking
What's going
that
on?
in my
Where's
head.
Mickey?
Just thinking that in my
Goofy?
head makes me not want to. I will deal without the phone. I do not want to go up and down the 5 freeway and get stuck in Camp Pendleton traffic twice in the same day.
No.
No, thank you.
No.
So, can you make it today without the phone? Can the Padres make it to the offseason without making a move?
No, they cannot. The reason they cannot make it through the offseason without making a move is because they need to fill out their roster. And we definitely went down a little bird walk in this segment, but when we come back, we will talk about Luis Arias, perhaps in pinstripes, and we will get into who's winning the offseason, who's losing the offseason, and everything surrounding that. 97.3 The Fan, Annie and Elsten Show. 11:39 Wednesday afternoon, Annie and Elsten show. Annie Heilbrunn, Braden Suprenant. I forgot my name there for a second.
That's
Braden
not
Suprenant
good. At
here.
least you didn't say like Scraby one time said, "Hey, Scraby," before
Did
he
he?
did a live read.
I feel like
And he
I
was
would
like,
say
"Wait,
that to myself.
I'm Scraby." It was pretty funny. That was a long time. That was years ago.
Did that get made into a promo?
No, I'm not making. And then Riley Green was playing in the background. So
Annie. Hey, I'm Annie. We're here with you, Braden and I, all the way through till 2 p.m. Craig Elsten is out today. We will take you into the Gwynn and Chris show. And then to the Scraby show, speaking of, and then Sam Levitt with some Inside Baseball at 7 p.m. tonight. That's correct, right? 7 to 9, I believe.
I think so.
A full day of live and local programming. As promised, let's pay this off, Braden, because we've teased it now for 2 segments as we start to talk about the offseason and what the Padres may or may not do, because they just haven't done anything yet, right? So we're just waiting to see what they do. Jeff Passan laid out who was winning the offseason and who needs to get it into gear.
Yeah, we're going to transition this into some of the rumors that were circling around the Padres. But, as of right now, and you look at the list that he put together, it's pretty self-explanatory about who's winning the offseason. I mean, a lot of them have the most money. We've talked about this multiple times. Dodgers, Yankees, Mets all have major TV contracts. Red Sox do as well. Those teams are all listed as teams that are winning the offseason. As one of my buddies just texted me, hang the banner. I mean, until you win in the regular season, it doesn't really matter if you win the offseason or not. But they are definitely improving their teams. The other 3 teams on there, the Mets, the Diamondbacks, and the Cubs, are the other 2. Cubs also another team that has a major TV contract.
Yes.
So the only one that wasn't is the Diamondbacks, and they bring in Corbin Burns. And look to add a little bit more. And we'll talk more about the National League West later on in the show today when we do our NL West roundup. One big question for every team facing every team faces going into 2025. But a lot of the teams that need to make a move, according to Jeff Passan, contending teams that happen to be in the divisions of a lot of these teams to try to keep pace. He mentions the Blue Jays and the Orioles, two teams that haven't really done too much in the offseason that got to keep pace with the Yankees and the Red Sox. He mentions the Braves, who was another team that was very good last year, ran into some injuries. We talked about them a little bit yesterday.
Yeah.
And how just adding some of their injured players back is going to be almost like picking up free agents. But another organization's got to keep pace with the Mets, who have hashed out a ton of money, and the Phillies, who are another team that might not be winning the offseason, but is a team that is built to win in 2025 and beyond. And the last 2 teams, the Mariners, another one of those contending teams that just have been on their hands during the offseason, and then the San Diego Padres. And in that, Jeff Passan goes to talk about how the Padres need a left fielder, another starting pitcher. This is all information that we know and we've talked about for months. And the difference is the national audience is different. They're not focused on, individual teams as much as we are with our individual team. But Padres are searching for a value in the outfield mix with the Blue Jays and Mets and perhaps the Braves and Astros. Teams have called on Luis Arraez and starter Dylan Cease and haven't been rebuffed entirely. So it's not like they're not on the market, and that's, again, all information that we already know. He goes on to say that the biggest priority, though, has been Roki Sasaki, the astonishingly talented 23-year-old right-hander who is currently deciding where he wants to play in Major League Baseball. Because Sasaki is an international amateur under MLB rules, his free agency is restricted to a relative pittance of signing bonuses, maxing out around $10 million and a minor league contract. Sasaki will be the biggest bargain in baseball, and while San Diego isn't banking its offseason on him, losing Sasaki would be a major problem, especially if it's to the Dodgers. That's where baseball is right now as he closes out his article. But a lot of things there that make a lot of sense. We do want to focus a little bit on the Arraez thing because we have heard the rumors about Cease, but the Arraez situation has been in the news the last couple of days involving the Bronx Bombers, which is not really what Luis Arraez does.
Yeah, and I think there's a few articles that have come out on this and talk from Jeff Passan, too, about how the two sides were at least in talks, right, in terms of a trade. And he is a polarizing player, as we've talked about all offseason long. Like, how he's valued just depends team to team. For Luis Arraez, at least in this article that I'm reading right here, he would solve 2 major Yankees issues. They lack hitters who consistently get on base, and they have no clear option to lead off. Arraez even rarely walking this last year. He's got a .372 on base percentage. It's been even better other years. And then when you've got a guy like him on base, hey, Aaron Judge, right? Aaron Judge is coming up to bat. Giancarlo Stanton coming up to bat. Another guy for them to drive in, another hopefully a way for them to score some more runs, right? His defense, though, as we know with Luis Arraez, not that great, right? Not that enticing if you're another team looking at that. So how would they use him? He's mostly a singles hitter, so this article kind of points out might not be the best fit for someone playing half of his games at Yankee Stadium. According to StatCast, Yankee Stadium is the worst park in Major League Baseball for left-handed hitters to hit singles because there's not much grass with the friendly home run dimensions over there in right field. So, this one, when I first heard about it, Braden, I was like, what? The Yankees? Like, it did kind of like make me scratch my head. I do get the point of like, yeah, we need a leadoff hitter. We need someone who's going to get on base. One thing you can count on with Luis Arraez is he will get on base. The whole ballpark fit, I could see how that could be a concern, but he's a pretty crafty hitter. More times than not, I think he's going to be able to at least get to first or second for you.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it a couple different ways. I mean, from the standpoint of like Yankee Stadium, he's not fit, right? I mean, they mentioned in the article, you just mentioned it. I mean, there's not a lot of space in right field. He's a singles hitter. Sure, he'll see a spike and maybe some power, but overall, he's not one of those players that fits that ballpark. I mean, you usually get the left-handers that play at that ballpark are guys that can put the ball in the yard, and it makes it a lot easier for them because the fences are in so tight on the corners there at Yankee Stadium. There are some gaps that he could be able to hit. I mean, they got the biggest gaps in Major League Baseball, some of the biggest gaps for a Major League Baseball stadium. It's just the corners that have been super short, and that's why people like to call that place a bandbox. When you look at the overall lineup, and they put that in the potential Yankees lineup with Luis Arraez, I mean, to have Arraez lead off for Bellinger, Judge, and Stanton, that's a pretty good start to your lineup, right? Because Arraez is going to get on base at some point in time. And then you go Jazz Chisholm Jr., Paul Goldschmidt, Austin Wells, Jason Dominguez, Anthony Volpe. But, a lot of teams like slug. And not everybody values the batting average and the singles hitter that Luis Arraez is. The Padres obviously do. It's why they brought him in, and to be at the top of the lineup. So from that perspective with Arraez, I mean, he's got to be able to put together, he's got to be able to be worth more than just his bat for a team like the New York Yankees. And you talk about his glove.
They are talking to the Padres. So they must have some kind of interest in
right. I mean,
at least feeling like they could use him somewhere,
It's tire kicking season. You got to see what's out there, see what you can get, see what you can, put together. I mean, there's a lot of players that, fit some molds and be able to do something like that. Maybe they think that, because they want to potentially part ways with Marcus Stroman. Maybe they think they could flip because the Padres need pitching. I don't think that really makes sense for the Padres if you did some type of flip like that. You'd have to pay a couple extra million for Stroman. Even if they threw in the contract or in the money for Arraez, or for Stroman that matches Arraez's contract, so the contracts are equal. They're both on 1-year deals. Yeah, and it's you're still taking away from your offensive lineup to help your starting rotation. And what the Padres are looking for in terms of rotation arms is not guys on 1-year deals. They already have 2 guys on 1-year deals. Mm-hmm. They're looking for guys that have a little bit more, control. And you could be under control for a couple of years because, you have a banged up Joe Musgrove. And even though he's, going to miss most of the season, he's going to try to come back. I know he says he wants to come back for October push and everything like that. There's no guarantee. When you get to his age, there's no guarantees. In the future, if and when he does come back, and I think he will, but there's no guarantees he'll be what he was, and that's just the reality of the situation. Yu Darvish is up there in age. I mean, those are the 2 guys that you have under contract, and then you have all of the unproven pitchers that you're hoping one of them hits. The Randy Vasquez, the Johnny Britos, the Matt Waldrons, the Brian Hoings, the Adrian Morehomes. I mean, those guys are under contract. But then you got King and you got Cease, and you have to make decisions on those players. Can we re-sign them? If not, should we get rid of them to try to bolster up? Why would you add a third in a guy like Marcus Stroman? We talked a lot about that yesterday, but what else you got to get out of the Yankees? Unless you're getting a young, controllable player that's already up in the major leagues, they don't have one of the better farm systems as of right now in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, and I think Preller either needs Major League ready players because of the holes that they have on the roster, or you need prospects that are good enough to flip, right? Like that you are going to be able to move.
Right.
I think for For Luis Arraez, and I'm one who I don't think his defense is abysmal. Like, I know it's not great. I know it's not elite. I think
statistically, it's the worst at second base for Major League Baseball players.
Is it the worst?
That's what it was last year.
All right,
with Jake Cronenworth,
can't ignore that.
But it's advanced analytics statistics. But
I know it's not great. It's not great. But he also, I feel like, makes enough plays where you can. You got to take the good with the bad sometimes, right? Like, but I know, I get it. You don't want to have balls go through or mistakes being made over there, bobbles being made. That could be prevented. So, yeah, for sure. I mean, look, the Yankees of all people. We just watched a World Series where the Yankees drop balls, poor defensive plays. It was messy, right? And so I think if you're the Yankees, you probably want to be a little careful with kind of how you shore up that defense, right? And maybe he's not exactly the right person. But I do think, obviously, Luis Arraez brings a ton of talent to teams. I am in Luis Arraez's camp. I don't want to see him traded. I think he's huge for the Padres. I think he does set the tone. I think he does bring an edge. I think that I know he will hit the ball. He was dealing with a hurt thumb for most of last season. I know he's going to hit the ball 9 times out of 10. And he's probably going to be walking more this season too, because that sounds like something that they told him to put an emphasis on. The other thing too, Braden, was like AJ Preller, I thought was pretty high on Luis Arraez, but that was, more toward the winter meetings. And again, I think this is why it's so important sometimes for fans to realize too, sometimes they don't want to trade these guys. It's just like, you look at your options and you go, how do you shore up that starting rotation? How do you get
We've heard this from AJ a lot. I mean, he's always willing to listen. And you never know when a deal's going to be able to come down. And any way that he can improve the team, he's going to do so. And even though there's probably a lot of players that he has no interest in trading, if a deal comes about that sounds better than what they currently have, they have made those deals. That's why they have all these surprising moves during AJ Preller's tenure as the general manager. These players that come out of nowhere that you didn't even realize the Padres were interested in, because they just start talking and seeing what they can put together to help improve the ball club. But if you look at the Yankees, I just don't see it aligning with what the Padres need.
Yeah,
there's
on the other side.
Like the Yankees, according to some metrics of the farm system, are the 29th out of 30th best farm system. The Padres already poached most of their good players anyway.
Yes.
If you're looking at overall Major League Baseball players, I mean, the Yankees are a team that want to compete for a World Series. There's not a lot on that level that they're going to be willing to part ways with that align with the Padres. The one player that does would be a Marcus Stroman, but at that point, you're not helping yourself for the future. It's kind of like you're just swapping one piece for another. It doesn't help you. So then you start looking at, why would you trade an Arraez or a Cease? Well, if you or even a King, you would trade one of those players to try to get something back for the long-term future, and you're looking for the closest thing you can get to what you got with Soto. These are the two assets you can have to try to pull that off. You're not going to come anything close to what you got for Soto, but those are the kind of moves that those are the two players that you could get the most back from. Why are you going to do that with an organization that doesn't really have a lot to offer anyway? I mean, they have Spencer Jones, the La Costa Canyon kid, but aside from him and Jason Dominguez, who's already penciled in to potentially be a starter for the Yankees, they don't have like what the Padres need in terms of like redoing their farm system and everything like that. So I just don't see things aligning in that field, but AJ does a good job of flipping something and then flipping that piece for something else. So maybe it's a 3-team trade. It's tire kicking season, and it's time to be creative for the San Diego Padres. So it's interesting that this came up, but I think the more we talk about it, the more I agree with John Heyman about that. There's not really a fit with Arraez in New York.
Yeah. I could see your point on that, especially on what you might get back. And AJ Preller does really like to have years of control, and it's a smart move. I mean, look, you're right. If Cease goes next year, if King goes next year, which are both very possible, if not plausible scenarios, who's in your starting rotation now? You've got Joe Musgrove, you've got Yu Darvish. Hopefully both are healthy and ready to go. You've maybe gotten some more mileage on guys like Johnny Brito or Randy Vasquez or Matt. Maybe one of the three has become a little bit more of an anchor in your rotation, right? But then you're still going to need some other guys, So they are kind of in this position where it would really benefit him to be able to shore up the rotation with some guys that they can have long term.
Yeah, 2026, you'd have 39-year-old Yu Darvish, and you'd have 34-year-old or 33-year-old Joe Musgrove coming off Tommy John surgery.
Yeah,
and then nobody else. except for the young guys, and you hope one of them pans out. And we know what the going rate for a starting pitcher is right now. And you know how much money that's under contract for the next couple of years. And a lot of those contracts are doing what? They're going up.
Yeah.
So they got to be able to find some young controllable pieces. Yeah. And the thing is
they might have some on their farm too that I don't know. I'm not thinking of.
There's not. They don't have too many big arms coming through there.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
It's you never know. Adrian Morejon can turn into. He's only 26 this year.
Yeah.
Guys like Brian Hoeing could be a really good. Maybe he turns into a good starter. Randy Vasquez showed some signs. If Matt Waldron can focus on that knuckleball and be effective with it and try not to cross up the catchers too much. Who knows? I mean, these are like the saviors of the franchise right now when it comes to spending money. And it's possible one of those guys comes out and shows out, and then you're saved for another year. But in terms of guarantee, there's not a lot of guarantees with this.
I saw a Roki Sasaki story earlier today that I think fans will like. We'll do it later in the show. We'll get to it. But for now, we got the Sports Fix. We got 12 o'clock right around the corner. Keep it right here. Annie and Elsten, 97.3 The Fan. 12 o'clock on a Wednesday. San Diego Sports Station 97.3 The Fan. Annie and Braden here with you today. Craig Elsten out today. Getting right into the 12 o'clock sports fix. Let's do it, right, Braden? Let's go. Okay, I'll start with MLB.
Sounds so excited. It's a Wednesday, middle of the week. I mean, Annie didn't know what day it was today.
I don't even know what day it is. It's baseball day. And
2025 is off to a great start.
It's time to talk about baseball-y things at 12 o'clock.
Baseball-y things.
Okay.
Baseball time. Go ahead,
How
Annie.
about the division that the Padres are in? Did the Dodgers make a move? No, not last night. Guess who did?
Was it the Rockies?
Nope. It wasn't the Rockies.
Diamondbacks.
No, not the Snakes.
Giants. The Giants make moves?
The Giants made a move.
Wow.
The Giants made a move. 1 year, $15 million for Justin Verlander.
How old is he?
42.
Wow. 30 to 42.
42.
It's a drastic difference.
And he will be pitching to the stacked lineups of the Padres and the Dodgers in that division, by the way.
Diamondbacks lineup is not.
And the Diamondbacks, yeah.
They're not a bunch of slappies down there in the desert.
1 year, $15 million. Do you think that's an overpay? It's just what it is, right? Like,
Not
I mean, it's just a
really.
Verlander.
I mean, that's kind of the going rate.
I guess if the Padres did that kind of a deal, you'd be like, oh, you know what I mean? But
With them potentially trying to save money, if they did a deal like that,
Yeah.
you'd be like, oh, why?
yeah, you'd be. But anyways, Justin Verlander over to San Francisco. He will be with Bob Melvin. All right, the Diamondbacks are acquiring infielder Gray Kessinger. This is a less exciting deal. From the Astros for minor league pitcher Matthew Linsky. Houston had designated Kessinger for assignment before the break as the corresponding move for the Christian Walker pickup. Kessinger was Houston's second-round pick in 2019. The right-handing utility man has made 49 big league appearances over the past 2 seasons, hitting .131 with 1 homer. So he joins the Diamondbacks. Minnesota Twins ownership believes the club could be sold by opening day. An industry source briefed on the Twins sale process told The Athletic. The source said the club has a, quote, robust market and is expected to be sold in full. Owners of the Twins since 1984, the Pohlad family announced on October 10th it would explore a sale of the franchise that he purchased. Get this, Carl Pohlad purchased for $44 million. $44 million. Last month, the Twins were estimated to be worth. Hello, Annie. Last month, the Twins were estimated to be worth between $1.46 billion and $1.7 billion by Forbes and Sportico, respectively. Though little is known about the parties looking to purchase the Twins, another industry source confirmed the interest of Justin Ishbia, a minority owner of the Phoenix Suns and Phoenix Mercury, and the Nashville Soccer Club. Forbes estimated Ishbia, 47 years old, has a net worth of $5.4 billion. Listen, if you're the Twins, okay, and I do think it's sad for the Pohlad family who has been steering the Twins ship for so many years. I mean, that's a rite of passage. That is sad. You buy the team back in, what was it, 1984 for $44 million, and you get to this point. But if you're a Twins fan, you're probably kind of excited about a guy worth $5.4 billion possibly buying you. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So, and this is kind of what the new ownership is, I think, of baseball. It's kind of gone that way of NFL and NBA, where it's
Not a group, it's a
it's not necessarily a group. It's an individual with lots of money. After telling reporters in November that it was, quote, next to impossible for Tropicana Field to be repaired for 2026, the Tampa Bay Rays have asked the city to begin a repair process in time to play in their home ballpark following the 2025 season. So they're planning to play, but listen, the stadium, it's going to cost nearly $56 million. It won't be finished up until days before the 2026 season starts. There's no guarantee that it'll even be repaired in time. I think this is a Hail Mary by Tampa because they know that the stadium they're trying to build is in flux. Mm-hmm. They don't want to be at that Steinbrenner Field forever. So they're going to try to get Tropicana Field fixed up and maybe never move. Like that whole stadium that they were thinking about building, that thing is like, it's dicey right now, whether that's going to go through. So maybe they figure if they can get the Trop better, then they'll just stay there for the time being, or at least until their contract runs out, which I think is like soon, 2028 or something like that.
Yeah, some people I know that organization sounds like they might be putting that team up for sale.
Yeah, well,
that might be on the horizon too.
I honestly, I've heard the same thing, Brandon.
I mean, we've heard the rumors about the Angels with Moreno. I'm sure the A's have to relocate. I mean, it just feels like a transition era for a lot of these teams of the, a lot of people just cashing out. But the thing is, it's like that's why you buy these teams.
Yeah.
So you could have fun running a team, and then it's a major cash out after you sell it.
Exactly, and you're making a ton. I mean, even with the Padres we saw this week, if that team ever is sold, that ownership group bought the Padres for, I believe, $800 million, and it's worth over $1 billion now, I think. So you're making
that's
quite a bit of money when you cash out, which is exactly why you buy in, right?
The Bears, the family owns the Bears, paid $100.
Yeah. So this
$100.
$100. That's
for the organization. It's probably
I would love to pay
$100
and
own the NFL franchise in the city of Chicago.
But so the Trump might be around maybe a few more years while they figure out this whole whatever happens to the team or whatever. But we'll see. Last story for me from our girl Katie Wu, talking about this morning how it is hard to trade Nolan Arenado for the Cardinals. They thought that they were going to be able to trade him to Houston, but he blocked that trade. Nolan Arenado said, no, I'm not going to go to Houston. And this is a team for the Cardinals where they've already said, hey, we're going to spend less money this year. We want our young core to be getting more experience. They both sides, like Arenado and the Cardinals, both pretty much are like, it's time to move on, but they might not be able to move him. They might not be able to move him. Yeah, and at some point you still kind of need to drop the money that you want to drop, and so getting rid of his contract would help them. But right now, not able to find that right fit. It was going to be the Dodgers. It sounded like for a minute, but I guess that's cooled off. So we'll see what happens there.
In NFL news, we've got ongoing, obviously, wildfires in Los Angeles. A very scary situation that we have talked about at the beginning, and hoping for the best as all of our local firefighters throughout Southern California and CAL FIRE try to put out some insane natural disaster going up in Los Angeles. And obviously there's a lot of plans that need to be in place for a lot of different things and events. The National Football League is currently monitoring the situation ahead of the LA Rams Minnesota Vikings game that is expected to be played on Monday night at SoFi Stadium. 3 major blazes were burning in the LA metropolitan area Wednesday from the Pacific Coast inland to Pasadena, home of the famous Rose Parade. At least 70,000 people were ordered to evacuate, a number that kept changing because of evacuation orders were continually being issued, officials said. The NFL continues to closely monitor developments in the area and will remain in contact with both clubs and the National Football League Players Association. The Rams, who have scheduled off day Wednesday, are scheduled to resume practice Thursday, also are monitoring the situation, a team official said. The Rams announced that of Wednesday morning, no players or staff had been impacted by the fires. So obviously something for them to monitor. We talked about that in the first segment. That happened here with the Chargers having to relocate a game to Arizona during the 2003 fires. So obviously a lot of things that are in place. They are not the only organization that is monitoring games because of natural occurrences. In the DFW area, there is some significant snow and snowstorms going around the DFW area in which the College Football Playoff is monitoring whether or not it'd be safe to conduct the game at Jerry's World, even though it's indoors, getting people to and from and around icy roads in the great state of Texas for Ohio State and Texas on Friday. They're expecting a lot of freezing rain, snow, and ice in the DFW area, an amount coming down at the same time that would be, it's a lot. It's supposed to be a lot. And so that is another organization that is monitoring said weather events.
Elements this week,
and some natural disasters at the same time. So a lot of things that are, in fact, affecting the sports world. And again, hopefully everybody stays safe and in all of these particular situations. Other NFL news for you. Speaking of the Dallas Cowboys, the Cowboys have denied permission to the Chicago Bears to interview Coach Mike McCarthy, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter on Tuesday. Multiple sources said Monday that the Bears had sought permission to speak with McCarthy regarding their head coaching vacancy. However, the Bears will interview Pete Carroll, who's 73 years old, for the job Thursday, sources told ESPN's Dan Graziano and Jeremy Fowler. Carroll has expressed interest in the job and would like to return to the sideline in 2025, according to Adam Schefter last month. Bears also requested to interview Buffalo Bills OC Joe Brady. Schefter reported they also are expected to interview former Titans coach Mike Vrabel, Bears interim coach Thomas Brown, Detroit Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, and Vikings DC Brian Flores, among others, as they look for a new head coach in Chicago. College basketball news. Last night, and we're going to talk more about this when we out of the sports flicks. Last night, Michigan went on to beat UCLA in college basketball. They were able to beat UCLA 94-75 at Pauley Pavilion in Los Angeles. Head coach of the UCLA Bruins, Mick Cronin, had a he let the truth come out in the post-game press conference. Here's Mick Cronin's post-game press conference.
But we don't play. We're soft. So don't tell me you want to win. Just don't tell me you want to win. So don't tell me you want to win. It's crazy, and it's every day. I'm tired of it. It's every day. I have the most energy of anybody at practice every day. I'm upset with everybody in that locker room, my assistant coaches and my players. I don't need to do anything else. I almost got 500 wins. I'm only 53. It's a joke. It's a joke. But yet I come in and I have more passion and energy and pride than everybody in. That's the problem. So what the truth of it is, Ben, it's really hard to coach people that are delusional. The hungry dog gets the bone. We got guys that think they're way better than they are. They're nice kids. They're completely delusional about who they are.
And so Mick Cronin airing it out in the post-game presser. We'll talk more about this in a little bit, but basically called his team soft in the media and said this is ridiculous and delusional. There's probably some truth to that. Him airing it out and then not taking any accountability is where he goes wrong. But this is kind of a problem in college. This is starting to become a problem in college athletics. Now, whether or not it's a UCLA culture problem or a problem in college athletics, we'll talk about that in just a little bit. That was last night. Tonight, one San Diego team is in action. It is the Toreros. They're on the road to take on Gonzaga. That game is at 6 o'clock on ESPN+. Gonzaga is a 29.5-point favorite at 18 in the country, 12-4 in the year, 3-0 in West Coast Conference play. Torero's trying to bounce back. This is a rough week for USD. They had Oregon State on Saturday, lost a 1-point game last Thursday to Santa Clara. They got Gonzaga on the road tonight, and then Saturday, St. Mary's comes to town. They play, I think, 4 out of their first 5 games in West Coast Conference play are the top 4 teams picked in this year's West Coast Conference. So it's a tough start
slate,
to West Coast Conference play for Steve Lavin and
good luck to them.
company. Yes, good luck to them. In fact,
and hopefully, if you're not winning all of those games, you're still improving your team. You know what I mean? You're figuring out how you can get a little bit closer every time.
So that's most of the sports fix. I do want to mention
Aztecs play tonight too.
Aztecs play tomorrow.
Yeah. Tomorrow.
They play tomorrow against Air Force.
But
I do want to mention with a heavy heart that Brian Mattis, the most accomplished pitcher in Torero baseball history, one of the most talented athletes to emerge from the University of San Diego, has passed away. His family announced on Tuesday night. He was 37 years old. Played for the Toreros from 2006 to 2008. Left an undeniable mark on USD baseball during his junior season in 2008. Led the NCAA in strikeouts while posting a 1.71 ERA. Ranks 4th all-time in USD single-season history. That same year, he was named the West Coast Conference Pitcher of the Year, a Louisville Slugger first-team All-American. Became the program's all-time career leader in strikeouts with 396. All of us in the USD community are heartbroken tonight to hear of Brian's passing, said USD Associate Vice President and Executive Director of Athletics, Kimya Massey. We give our heartfelt condolences to his family, all of his teammates from his time here at USD and beyond. His heart, passion, and genuine love for the game and his teammates was always felt and will be missed. We hope everyone keeps his family in their prayers at this time. That is from the University of San Diego, obviously mourning the passing of a great pitcher and a great part of the community here in San Diego, where he went to school. Brian Mattis passing away at 37 years old.
It's so sad. And, beloved by the Orioles, obviously in USD, his family, my heart goes out to them. Brock Ungrich, I saw, who is the head baseball coach at USD, tweeted that his heart, our hearts are hurting losing one of the greatest Torero legends. Brian loved USD baseball. His legacy will last forever in the Lumbee Blue. So, I mean, just a really tough one. You hate anything ever to come across your desk like that. 37 years old, just way, way, way too young. And so many people here in this community know him and know of his family as well.
Yeah, it's tough. It's always tough to see these stories and everything. So, and very, obviously very surprising, and hopefully as everything, we hope for the best for his family and everything like that. San Diego State is playing. I thought they were playing on the 9th. They are playing tonight against Air Force at 7:30 on Fox Sports 1.
Yeah, so
they're favored by 19.5.
Right, like this is one where they should blow it out. Or just be fine. They should be fine. But they
got to handle the zone.
But they got to handle the zone. They got to handle this matchup, right? And was listening to Gwen and Chris and Mark Ziegler on with them, and saw the article where, this is a different kind of game plan than they're normally used to.
That's almost like playing these teams in football. You got to deal with the triple options. It's just a different level. Got to be able to shoot from beyond the arc, or use your mass inside and break the zone and move the ball around. But San Diego State, big 19.5-point favorite tonight against Air Force. USD will play at Gonzaga. Tomorrow night will be, I'm pretty sure UCSD plays tomorrow.
Yeah, the Aztecs are 9-3, coming off a 76-68 road win at Boise. The Falcons are 3-11 and winless in 3 conference games by an average of 17.3 points. Ken Palm Metric projects a 23-point spread with a 98% chance of an SDSU victory. But they are playing that matchup zone, so makes it a little bit more interesting tonight.
UC San Diego in action against Cal Poly tomorrow at 7 o'clock. 0-42.
That's a good... No, well, they got to get through...
Cal Poly.
Weren't you saying Cal Poly? Right, Cal Poly hasn't had a conference win in
They haven't won in... They're 0-42 in their last 42 games.
0-42.
0-42 in Big West play. They're 0-4 to start this season.
What kind of scares me about that is aren't you due at some point when you're 0-42?
They're due. It's a Thursday night, and then they got a quick turnaround Saturday against Irvine, who's the best team in the conference.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking of.
And that game's going to be on ESPN.
And then you don't want to overlook Cal Poly too, right? And
that's what I'm saying. You can't. It's a trap game.
Yeah.
Got to deal with Cal Poly, 0-42.
That's a good little juicy test for them.
Yeah,
That'll
exactly.
be fun. Yeah.
So, but college basketball last night. Is it a UCLA problem, or is this a college athletic problem? We'll talk about what Mick Cronin had to say.
Oh, I love it. We got to play it again, probably.
We will play it again.
Because I just want to hear it again. Okay, we'll talk about that after the break. Keep it right here. Annie and Elsten, 97.3 The Fan. 12:23 on a Wednesday right here on 97.3 The Fan. Annie and Elsten show. Annie Heilbrunn joined by Braden Surprenant. Craig Elsten is out today. As we roll along to 2 p.m., we're about a little over halfway through today. Not a whole lot of news coming down the pipeline in terms of baseball moves or anything like that. We just went through some in the Sports Fix, but we're certainly keeping our eye on the wildfires happening in Los Angeles and thinking about all who are affected by those wildfires because it looks absolutely brutal out there. Braden, we were touching on this head coach from UCLA, these comments that he made, and I got to hear it again. This thing. So
UCLA had a rough night last night against Michigan. They got blown out by the Wolverines, and Mick Cronin, obviously very frustrated, had this to say after the game.
But we don't play. We're soft. So don't tell me you want to win. Like, just don't tell me you want to win. So don't tell me you want to win. It's crazy, and it's every day. I'm tired of it. It's every day. I have the most energy of anybody at practice every day. I'm upset with everybody in that locker room, my assistant coaches and my players. I mean, I don't need to do anything else. I almost got 500 wins. I'm only 53. I mean, it's a joke. It's a joke. But yet I come in and I have more passion and energy and pride than everybody in. That's the problem. So what the truth of it has been, it's really hard to coach people that are delusional. The hungry dog gets the bone. We got guys that think they're way better than they are. They're nice kids. They're completely delusional about who they are.
He loses me on the, I have 53 wins.
He should take a little more responsibility.
I have almost 500 wins, and I'm 53 years old.
And I don't have to do anything. I don't have to change
anything. I'm doing
anything.
it great and all this other stuff. I mean, there's probably some things that he needs to do as well. But there's a lot of things he says that you just, coaching the youth now, you deal with. Yes. I mean, it's just a different level, priority. We've talked about this a lot. I see it with a lot of, just coaching high school. You see a lot of time. It's just a lot of kids now will take the win.
Yeah.
They'll take it. This is not like a right or a wrong, but they'll take it. But that doesn't mean they want, it's not like they just are going to do everything to win.
The win sort of falls into their lap more than
if it
going
works
out to get it.
If it works out, it's great. This is great. I think a lot of pro teams are like that too. It's they'll take the win. But it's not like they're going to go down swinging and never say die. And there's not a lot of those teams out there. There's not a lot of players like that anymore. That's just kind of what we're at right now in society, I think, a lot of times. And you could mention the money and stuff, but there's other aspects of it too. I mean, the high school kids aren't getting paid. But their focus is on social media and how do I improve my brand? Now maybe it's all ultimately to money. But, I mean, we got, and I'm not saying it's good, I'm not saying it's bad, it's just what it is now. We have kids, and I see it at every school, that have their parents pay for their own professional video guy. And he follows them around. And we have 5 in our box, while you're trying to coach, just 5 video guys that we don't even know who they are. And the parents
they make the hype reels.
Right, they make and all they do is film that one kid. And he makes them the Instagram posts and the TikToks and all that stuff. But that's important to kids, right?
The brand is important.
The brand, right? The brand. But we have made the branding so important. And it is. I mean, right? If you're from their perspective, if you're trying to go to college and you're trying to get as much as you can as an athlete, you got to show off your skills. You got to be the influencer. You got to build the brand. You got to build the followers, right? If you want to play at this high level, I mean, there's more. We have made it so much of a business now at the younger levels that you're going to have a frustrated Mick Cronin going look, I'm going out there, and I'm trying to. I want to win more than anything else in the world, and I got guys that just don't want to. They just don't want to do it. This is built up frustration. Now he goes a little bit too far with the whole. I've almost won 500. I did this. I did that. I did this. Everybody else. I mean, if he would have said look, it starts with me. I got to be able to fix this. Yeah. I think a lot of people would buy into what he's saying. But there's a lot of truth to this, and it's going to continue. And I don't think it's just a UCLA cultural problem. I think this is a problem around a lot of different places at levels that are below the professional sports level.
Yeah,
now.
maybe not even in professional sports too, maybe in a workplace or maybe in just kind of how things are perceived these days. I think it's hard to imagine that the influx of money has and the whole NIL thing has not affected teams in some way. Not every player. There are players out there that, are doing it for the love of the game or because they want to win. I mean, not every player is built the same way, but the emphasis now on the branding and on how you're going to make that money and on how you're going to be this person and be seen and all that. It's just, there's no way around it really. And I think for a guy like Mick here, who probably remembers the days before that and remembers the teams where he gets, it was more for the love of the game, right? It's a stark contrast. He lost me a little too, where he's like, I don't need to change anything. I already have so many
wins. What do
wins.
I still need to do?
Right.
It's like, okay.
I think you got to take some responsibility, dude. I think that's just the best look even. But how do you go back in now? So obviously his team is going to hear that, and like for the rest of the season, you're going to, the word delusional, and I know what he means. He means they think that they're better than they are, or that they don't have to work for it.
I mean, they got that.
Right.
Their parents think that. I mean, they're everybody, but
so
that's how they. The problem is with that is that's how they convince these guys to show up to that school in the first place. When you recruit, I mean, you basically tell every player you are the great. Yeah. No, you do. You are the greatest player that has ever lived.
Oh,
I mean, that's literally what everybody's pitch is. You are the greatest player that's ever lived, and then they get there, and everybody thinks that they are the greatest player that's ever lived, and a lot of these kids are not.
Yeah.
And then it's, they're focused on themselves, right? They're focused on their own thing.
If there's not an incentive like beyond your own brand, because now you're going to have, you're going to have some guys who feel a certain type of way after hearing that and who aren't going to feel good about being called delusional or being called, said that they don't want to win or whatever. But look, he's this is what you do as a coach, right? Like, this, you got to pick your battles and decide the times that you're going to throw it all out there. And he certainly threw it all out there last night.
I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what's going on in the locker room at UCLA, but this is like at a level with what Mick did that he's tried to address this before, and he's just beyond frustrated.
He's gone from behind the scenes to now public.
Yeah, he's like, I'm tired of doing this every day, and it's draining. And there's times as a coach where I feel like sometimes I feel like I want to win more than the players do, and when you get to that point, that's where you have a problem. Right? That's where you have a problem, because it should be doing everything that's best to try to get the kids in a spot to win because it's about them. Right? It's really about them. Players win games. Players are the reason that you win games. Coaches try to get them in the opportunities to go out there and win those games. And if they're not, I mean, it's hard to go in there and work every single. And people don't give coaches enough credit of how long of a day it is to be a coach.
Oh, man.
I mean, these guys don't see their families for weeks. Like, anybody that's watched Hard Knocks, and is watching Hard Knocks right now, and they just had their last episode of the season, the in-season Hard Knocks. I mean, they had a scene with, like, Zach Taylor, the head coach of the Bengals. Mm-hmm. Family comes in on Monday to see Dad, and the wife's like, we won't see him again until maybe Friday.
Yeah,
we won't even see him.
Right.
This guy is dedicated to all these other people instead of his own family. So it gets irritating from a coach's perspective. When you do all of this, you are taking time away from your kids. I don't know what Mick's family life is like, but this for all the coaches. Your kids, your wife, your family, they're all on the back burner. You're investing all this time in a bunch of strangers, right, that become your team. And then if they're not that interested, you sit there and it comes to a point, it's like, why am I doing this? Yeah. Why am I putting in all this? Like, and it's time probably to move on and do that. I mean, I know at schools, I know coaches at other schools at the college level throughout the country that have guys that go like, look, I need to play more because I need to get my bag. I need to go get paid in the transfer portal. Mm-hmm. When you have that kind of dynamic on your team, I mean, how are you going to get him to buy into anything you're doing? It's already a lost cause. And a lot of people that I've heard say about, like, blaming Mick, it's like, well, you bring the players in. There's only so many of those guys that are around that have that elite talent level that can compete at the level UCLA wants to compete at, that also is just completely dedicated to the sport of basketball. In this day and age, when you you have to be able to take care of yourself too. It's a hard ask. That's like when I was at TCU, the teams that were loaded with 3-star guys that had a chip on their shoulder, played a lot better than the teams that had the 4- and 5-star guys that were worried about other things.
Yeah. No, those are all really good points. And I think that when you're a coach and you do that, you're usually pretty intentional. Like, you know what the fallout's going to be. I mean, it's for them, like you said, he's over it. He's done, and they'll finish out the rest of the season, and it can go two ways, right? Like, they're either going to really rally behind him, or more likely, at least in my opinion, they're going to have some who rally behind him and some who decide, hey, you called me delusional. I'm over it too. I'm not going to go out there and give my best effort every night. But you know what he would say to that? You weren't giving it anyways, probably.
Right. And the people in the chat that say, well, that starts with the coach. There's only so much you can do. I mean, you could preach the team stuff all you want. You could preach this. You could preach that. And in this day and age, when a kid can just be like, I'm just going to leave, it's hard to do that with a culture, and unless you have
there's leverage.
Yeah, there's leverage. I mean, and the big schools that do a really good job of that, players know, if I screw up here, I ain't getting an opportunity anywhere else. And that's like the Patriots back in the day. The Patriots would tolerate a lot of players that used to do they would shape up all the time, right? Think about all the headaches that they inquired.
A lot of headaches.
Right? They inquired a lot of headaches, and they still won.
Very legal headaches.
And they're like, look how great they are. It's like, no, they want to play with Tom Brady. They know they can win, and if they screw up there, nobody else is going to give them a chance. They're at a different level. So for everybody else, it's easy to say, like, that starts with the coaching, but there's only so much you can do. And when the players have the ability to leave whenever they want, it's hard to hold players accountable that don't want to follow what you're speaking, because they are about themselves. And that's the problem that you're facing right now in college.
I mean, gone are the days where it's like, well, you're going to have to learn how to make this work. I mean, I know I went through that growing up with my parents in whatever situation, whether it was work or, dance or whatever, where it was like, well, you're not going anywhere. So you're going to have to figure out a way to make this a good situation, whether it's sitting down with someone or it's, looking at yourself in the mirror or whatever, right? And now with the transfer portal, right, like, you kind of just get to run away every time you don't like something.
Right.
So, and I think the coaching thing is, now I agree, both Braden and I agree that he should have taken more responsibility on himself in that speech that he gave. And,
he went too far.
No doubt about it. He went too far. But I do think that it is interesting about the coaching. When I talk to players, baseball players, when they're retiring, and I say, okay, are you going to get into coaching? You still love the game. They still want to be around the game. And like 99% of the time, it's like, hell no, because the amount of time, they're like, do you see how long these coaches are at the ballpark? Like, they're here for like 8 more hours than we are, and then they got to take it home. Then they got to bring it back in the morning. And then they got to, their work never stops, so it's definitely a position in coaching, whatever level you're at, and it's just getting harder and harder, I think, with all the college changes and NIL and all that. But whatever level you're at, it is a thankless thing usually.
And I got news for KG. That doesn't work anymore. You can't. People don't, like, especially now. You can't rule with an iron. You're never going to get the talent you want to get. I mean, that's just how it is, because the players have all the power in this, and they can just be like, all right, you want to hold me accountable? I'm just going to leave.
Yeah.
Because I know XYZ school is going to pay me just as much if I leave. What do I need to stay here for? It's the same thing with University of Miami, right? They had Larinaga decided that he was going to leave because he was like, we went to the Final Four, and 8 of my guys went to the transfer portal to get a paycheck. You go to the Final Four and you can't keep guys. It's just the way it is.
I think that's so hard, because it's like, you work, the whole point of coaching. You see it last year with the Padres. How many times did we throw around the word identity and culture and program?
Right.
And that is what you're always constantly striving to do, because it is hard to instill an identity and a culture and a program year after year after year with new personalities and bodies and people. Like, right. You need some of that crossover, and when they're all leaving,
and then they leave, right? And then you get, and then you know what they say? The fans go, "How did we let this 4-star, 5-star kid leave?" And then you're trying to compete with like the 3-star guys that will do anything for you because they're the the hungry dog that wants the bone that are not nearly as talented as some of the teams you're going against, and then you're getting blown out, and then guess what happens? Your family's moving.
Yeah.
It's an unwinnable situation.
And the talented kids, you can't really blame them either because they're kind of being enabled to do this. Like, this is their reality now. Like, until there's laws and regulations, they're going to do what they think is kind of best for them.
It's hard. I mean, you're now in a situation, I know we got to get to break, but you're in a situation now where, like, you got to be able to hold, like, you find ways to hold kids accountable, but at the same time, like, you have to give them an incentive to stay. Like, there is a lot of ass kissing going on with some of these players because there's no, like, they have all the power to leave whenever they want.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of the situation. And it's either, I'm not saying it's good, I'm not saying it's bad, but that's what it is.
Unlike anything else.
In pro sports,
unlike high school or pro, right.
Yeah, in pro sports, it's like, you stink, you're out, and you're under contract for 6 years, you got to deal with this. Right? They don't have the leverage of I can just leave and go wherever I want, whenever I want to. I mean, could you imagine if, the top players in Major League Baseball, like the top players in the Padres, was like, oh, I'll just leave then, right?
Yes.
If Manny or Fernando they would be in control of everything. You would have to try to find ways for them to stay. It's just, it's a hard mix, and you have to find stars align for all of that to work out. And some of the programs can do that, but some of them are financially and at that echelon enough where they could do that, like the 4 teams left in the college football playoff.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. All right, we got to go to break. When we come back, we're going to get into one big question, Braden.
Yes, NOS roundup.
Big question. Keep it right here, 97.3 The Fan. 12:45 on a Wednesday as we roll right along on the Annie and Elsten show. Annie Heilbrunn here, joined by Braden Surprenant. Craig Elsten is out today, taking you through to 2 p.m. Looking a little, is it like bluster? Is it blustery out there, Braden?
It's windy.
It's windy. It is windy. We're keeping the families and the businesses and everybody involved in the fires in Los Angeles in our thoughts. It is a brutal situation and doesn't look like it's going to be clearing up anytime soon. So hopefully they'll continue to get some relief somewhere. Right. I mean, that's really all you can hope for at this point. And to the firefighters and everybody out there trying to help, man, not an easy job, but obviously thinking about all of them as well.
We usually play silly games here. We're not going to do that today. When you do play the silly game, you this month are qualified for a chance to win a grand prize, trip to Las Vegas to see Scorpions on March 6th, plus a 2-night stay at Planet Hollywood and a $100 gas card. Scorpions return with their 60 Years of Scorpions Las Vegas residency show live February 27th to March 11th at PH Live at Planet Hollywood Resort and Casino. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. That is what you would usually qualify for. If we played a game here, we're going to punt on that today.
Do you know who the Scorpions are?
Yeah, they're a rock band.
Okay. Do you know any songs?
I mean, I'm sure if you played one of their songs, I could probably.
I mean, I don't know that I know very many songs. I know the one that's like do do do. Do, 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 do. I can't remember the name of it.
I looked at their list. I mean, they don't come off the. I'm sure if you played the tune, I would be like, oh. I know this song, but I would never guess the Scorpions.
Oh, Rock You Like
That's
a Hurricane,
song?
I guess
right.
Adam says. We know that song.
I've listened
yeah.
to
that. All right, well, anyways.
Anyway, so we don't have too much time. We're going to ask there's one big question facing the NL West teams. We'll talk about that at the 1 o'clock hour.
Yeah.
Do want to continue on with this conversation about, what Mick Cronin's coming from of just like this day and age of coaching and being part of athletics with everything that goes about and how everybody's basically got their own brand playing for the brand of their organization, right? I mean, it's multiple brands at play here. Like before the social media aspect, your brand was the organization that you worked for, right?
Yes.
Playing for the Chargers or the Padres
exactly.
or whatever. And now it's like, well, I'm focused on myself, and if I just happen to be working for this other, everybody's almost like a mercenary right now. But it's interesting. We were discussing off air about some of the different topics of this and kind of went through even further. I think there's just, and you understand this more than a lot just because of being in the clubhouse and in locker rooms covering the Chargers and the Padres for so long. And just because they're playing a sport or doing an activity that all of us love doing, because that's why we're here. This is the hobby, right? So like everybody part of all the fans, this is their hobby outside of work.
Yeah.
You would just assume that everybody that is involved with athletics are just diehard, like especially the athletes are really into their sport, and that's not always the case.
It is so true, and it is such a misconception. It's a tricky topic because I don't want fans to think that they don't care. They care, but there are some that care more than others, and there are some that love it more than others, and there are some that see it just as a job, just like in your normal workplace. I always say a clubhouse is a petri dish of regular society. You have people in there that don't like each other. You have people in there that love each other. You have people that like this, people that hate that. Like it is just like you would if you took, 50 people out on the streets, not maybe exactly because they're obviously all athletes, but the thought process that they're all the same, they're all like homogenous and they all love baseball or football the same way. It's just false. I mean, I can't remember, honestly, in the NFL, to me, it was very prevalent. There were so many guys who hated to get hit. I mean, they hated to go out there and get hit. They did not like the suiting up and going out and playing a game every day. You would never know by the way that they played on the field. I mean, they were some of the most talented athletes that we saw here in San Diego. But they did it because, just like many of you in your jobs, you found a way in to make a lot of money, and you're really good at it. You want to provide for your family. You can't think really of anything else you're going to do at that point. And so you keep on going, but it doesn't necessarily mean that like you love it and you want to live, breathe, and eat it, 24/7. And honestly, Braden, my last point on that too is like, to me, some of the most healthy players were ones that figured that out at some point in their career and were able to detach a little bit. like maybe they started families, or maybe they found, some philanthropic thing or whatever, they got closer with their religion, whatever it was. Like, it's sometimes better to have like a little bit of separation and understand that like this is your job, and then this is your life. This is what you're going to be left with after you are kicked out of the league, and you can't go back into a clubhouse or a locker room every day.
The thing is you have to view the team, as you mentioned, like you would view your regular workplace. I mean, there's people there that are really talented at what they do and love doing it. And they are fortunate enough to do what they love. I consider myself one of those people, and I eat, breathe, live. I live this all the time. That's why I love working here. It's why I love doing play-by-play at USD. It's why I love coaching. I mean, I'm doing things that I'm passionate about that would be my hobbies. That's not the case for a lot of people, right? I mean, there's a lot of people that I mean, sports are their hobby, right? Like everybody in the chat and everybody listening around, this is their hobby that gets them out of like, this is what takes their mind off their work, right? Of a skilled job that they're really good at. And when you go to your workplace, there's going to be those, John Lynch's of the world that love playing football. And he loves doing it, right? And he's there because he loves it. He would do it for free. There's people at your job right now that love doing what they do so much. And it might be a small percentage. When
I first got into this industry, I mean, you probably work for free. I work for free.
Yeah. You would do it for free. Right? And because it was because they're doing something they love. There's some people like that at your office.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people at your office that like it, right? They don't want to change. They like it. The money's good, but they're not like just gung-ho about it. And then there's people that are like, I'm just really good at this. And it's just a job for me, and I'll focus on other things outside of this. So when you talk about like, these players and not everybody wants to win, I mean, it's the case. It's like a lot of these players are gigantic human beings that are really skilled at what they do, and this is perfect for them, and they don't necessarily have to like what they do to do it. And if they're super passionate about it, they'll go after it. And there's a small percentage of those guys in college and the pros. But then on top of that, there's guys that are like, I'm just trying to get as much money as I possibly can, and that's fine. That's what it is, right? So, but it's hard to convince those type of people. Imagine your boss trying to convince that person to just give his every ounce or her every ounce to the common goal of the company. Mm-hmm. And if that's one of you out there, you'd be like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Right? But like in sports, we all just assume that everybody is into it as we are, and they're not. The reality is they're not.
No, a lot of times you are grateful to have a job if you are, a grinder and someone that's kind of been floating between teams, and like, so you kind of stomach, honestly, a lot of the unsavory parts because you want that job. Right. You know it's going to end for you at some point. And then you have, I think, players who get those big contracts, and I think they absolutely, I don't know if they do or don't, honestly, how much they love it necessarily, but the understanding of like, this is my job and I'm going to fulfill my contract to the best of my ability. And you definitely love the opportunities, I think, that the game gives you. And I hear that a lot from athletes, like you love the opportunities and the fact that you got to experience certain things.
For every John Lynch, there's an Anthony Rendon.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, he's the extreme that way. I think there's a middle
John
ground,
Lynch
but yes.
And John Lynch is an extreme on the right.
Yeah.
Like he just he loves football. Yeah. And Anthony Rendon, like, obviously does not care anymore or does not love the game. He just was always good at it. It's a way to make some money. I mean, there is a large spectrum of athletes like that view it just like you would view your job if you're doing a job that pays really well, that you're good at, that you don't necessarily are 100% passionate about.
Yeah. Well, and I think, too, with NIL and college, the game has changed. I mean, you can love it, but the carrot at the end of the stick is the money and the branding and the incentives and, where your other teammates are going and where your head coach is going to move to. And I mean, there's so many other factors now that complicate that relationship.
And that can lead to players and kids at a younger age that pick their sports. I mean, I don't know how many times that you hear players go like even I don't want to speak for Tony Gwynn Jr. Tony loves basketball. He loved basketball, but he knew he had probably a better future in baseball, and that's the way he went, right? Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of guys like that we have in football at Cathedral that are basketball players, not tall enough. Football's going to get me where I need to be, and it's not their favorite sport, but This is how I pay for college. This is how I make NIL and all that stuff.
It's an interesting topic, and we'll discuss it more and more as the months and years go on because it's not going to end. I mean, it's good to talk about. All right, 1 hour left. Keep it right here. Annie and Elsten, 97.3 The Fan. all the way up. There we go.
Jumped the gun.
That was a little early there.
Yeah.
Woo! I had that fleeting moment of, is that the right song? But
at least you didn't say hi to yourself.
Yeah. Hi, Annie. I'm Annie. All right. Hi, everyone. One more hour here left on 97.3 The Fan. Annie Heilbrunn, Braden Suprenant joining you today from the Annie and Elsten Show. Craig Elsten out today. And yeah, we've been rocking and rolling for 3 hours, Braden. We got 1 hour left here.
Yeah, 1 hour to go, and good conversation in the last hour.
Yes.
About we got a lot of comments in the chat about that as well, which was good. It was a good discussion topic. We're talking with Mick Cronin setting the stage. Almost got 500 wins. What else do you want me to do?
what more do you want from him?
I was very close
he
to
brings the energy, he brings the passion.
It was close to an I'm a man, I'm 40, except for the fact that I'm a man, I'm 40 was sticking up for a player, and these are just you just throw them all out to dry.
No, but he said he was like, I'm 50, whatever, right? He's like, I'm 50
I almost got
something.
500 wins.
Got 500
I'm 53
wins,
years
right.
old. What do I need to keep doing this for? Well, the practice today was probably fun.
That's kind of going to, I want to see what that fallout is. Although it's so much harder for a beat writer to cover that in college than like in the pros, you know, because they keep a lot of stuff closed door and they don't let you talk to the kids all the time and everything like that in college. Mm-hmm. I don't know how UCLA runs their program, but that's at least.
We could reach out to Ben Bolch.
Oh.
See what he wants. See if he'd come on.
I am interested in some of that fallout, you know, and of course people are also going to say the right thing. Like I think there will be some players who are like, yeah, you know, we got to get it together. We got to whatever. But inwardly, they're not all going to be on track with this. So. The delusion.
No, the delusion.
Yeah.
Who do the Bruins got next? I mean, that to me, Mick's just. It seems like he's just tired.
Mick needs a break.
But he was also. I think it's interesting. And we'll get to the NL West roundup here in a second. He was one of the guys that was like really not thrilled that UCLA was going to the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And what he had to do now as a coach to be able to do that.
So he might be looking for a way out, you think?
I mean, you know, so not only like UCLA, right? They already have the challenge of flying across the country for almost every road game at conference.
Mm-hmm. That's brutal.
Right?
That
on
schedule,
top of this. I mean, they came out, I watched them play Gonzaga. They had a big win against Gonzaga. And then they went to Nebraska and lost to Nebraska. And they just lost to Michigan. Now, in a quick turnaround, they got to go play at Maryland and at Rutgers. So they got to go back to the East Coast, and then they come home, they play 2, and then they get a West Coast swing. Finally, they get Washington SC on the road, which is not really on the road for USC. And then they got 3 home games in a row, and then they got to go back to the Midwest, and it's a lot of travel for basketball. We talk about football all the time. Football can get this done, but I mean, what is Mick Cronin's press conference going to be after they play at Purdue on February 28th? I mean, they got to go. They have that meeting, and now they're going to fly cross country together to Maryland.
They can do a lot of bonding as they fly cross
exactly,
country together.
Before they go to New Jersey to take on Rutgers 3 days later.
Do you think they're charter, or do you think that they're commercial?
That's UCLA. It's
right.
definitely charter.
They're
They don't have the
definitely
Mountain West rules
right.
here.
The restrictions of only so many charter flights a season.
That's the dumbest rule I've ever heard.
Yeah, that is pretty dumb. I feel like if you can do it, because if it was the same across every conference, it wouldn't bother me as much. But it's not, you know. So if you can do it, then you can do it like so many other schools can do it.
Right, exactly.
So
I've never been a believer in that. It's like, well, everybody's got to be able to have it. Well, not everybody wants to invest in their programs like others.
Right.
So why punish the team that's investing in their program, right? Like a Gonzaga.
All right, we got to get to this NL West roundup. We have one big question.
I got one big
question. Each team in the division. One big question.
Yes.
Starting with Arizona.
We'll start with Arizona. We'll work our way to the Padres at this point in the offseason. There's still questions with all of these teams that have some work to do before the season starts. And there's one question for every team in Major League Baseball. We're going to focus on the National League West in particular, starting with the Arizona Diamondbacks. So Diamondbacks surprised baseball world by signing right-hander Corbin Burnes to a 6-year, $210 million deal. Once again, showing ownership's commitment to stretch the budget when the team is poised to contend. The move leaves Arizona with 7 starters, including Burnes, Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, Eduardo Rodriguez, Brandon Pfaadt, Ryan Nelson, and Jordan Montgomery. It also begs the question of whether the Diamondbacks will deal one of their starters to add to their offense or to solidify the back end of the bullpen. 2 things they wanted to do this offseason. That is from their beat reporter, Steve Gilbert of MLB.com. The question I asked you, Annie, is there a pitching move coming for the Diamondbacks?
I mean, they want to move Jordan Montgomery, right? I mean, that's kind of the thought process there.
Yes, they threw him under the bus already.
Yeah, they threw him under the bus. I don't know that Jordan Montgomery is going to have such a bad year as he had last year. Like, that could be a one-off, and he's someone that ends up being very beneficial to your team. You know, he's getting the money, you know, as he should. So to me, probably yes. The pitching move is probably coming. They just brought in Corbin Burns, so I would imagine they'll make another move. But they're readying that rotation to look pretty darn good.
Yeah, they want to get rid of Jordan Montgomery. I mean, they already have a lefty in Eduardo Rodriguez.
Yeah.
They have a really good. They got 6 guys that can compete. You never want to give up too much pitching because everybody needs more pitching, and 7 guys still might not be enough. But if you factor in some young players, I think the Diamondbacks end up moving Jordan Montgomery and to try to get maybe some prospects back, or even better, as mentioned by Steve Gilbert, put themselves in a position to put another stick in the lineup. And then all of a sudden the Diamondbacks are right there with the Padres in 2025, and it's just making the division that much better.
It is.
The more the Dodgers spend, the more everybody else in the division is going to be like, well, we got to keep pace with these guys. Let's go out there and make some moves. So with the Padres and the Dodgers the last couple of years setting the stage, Arizona trying to get back on track, I think there is a pitching move coming for the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yeah, I think so too. And you mentioned it. Every team in the NL West in the division is improving. Maybe not the Rockies, but in terms of their rotation. And the good thing for the Padres is they already have a pretty good rotation. I mean, you've got some good arms in there. Michael King, Dylan Cease, Yu Darvish. It's going to be rounding out that rotation, getting that back end of the rotation the way that they want it. That might be the separator between them and other teams, depending on the other moves that the other teams make. And then, of course, injuries, right? I mean, you just never know how that's going to play out.
Let's jump down to the Colorado Rockies before we talk about the Dodgers, Giants, and the Padres. During spring training of 2022, Rockies signed former Cubs star Chris Bryant in hopes that he would provide some answers during the transition to a younger roster. But after signing a 7-year, $182 million contract, Bryant has endured 3 injury-plagued seasons without a star in the lineup to lead them through the transition. The increasingly young Rockies have lost regularly, with the loss total reaching triple figures the last 2 years. Bryant is addressing his chronic back issues with a new and detailed regimen that he and the Rockies believe is going well. Still, the question will linger until Bryant provides the production the Rockies need. That is from our friend Thomas Harding of the Rockies. Will Chris Bryant be who the Rockies hoped he would be?
I'm going to go ahead and stand for Chris Bryant here. I'm going to go ahead for the USD Torero, who's had a tough go since signing this contract, and he's had all these issues, these health issues, these back issues. Chris Bryant, maybe 2025 is going to be your year, and you're going to be able to figure it out and get things going the direction you need it to go. I mean, it is very difficult when you sign a contract like that, and you really never play up to it, right? And every year you kind of try new things. That sounds like where he's been at. Hopefully this regimen, hopefully it clicks for him. Gives him some, he needs health, honestly, first and foremost. And then I think he can get back to being the player that he is expected to be.
I just think when they signed him, the player they expected him to be is a player that he can no longer be. That's just with his age and everything
it's
like
over?
that. I mean, I don't think it's over. I think he can be a good player, but it all comes down to what type of a player did the Rockies expect Chris Bryant to be?
Yeah. He's
33 years old. They gave him $182 million in 2022. He's getting $27 million a year. I mean, to live up to that potential is going to be very difficult for an injury-plagued guy. He can still have a really good year, but is that the Chris Bryant? Like, is he going to live up to Chicago Cubs Chris Bryant?
I don't know about
I don't
that.
think he can, right? So is that what the Rockies were expecting? Or were they expecting more of a San Francisco Giants?
That was a very fun Chris Bryant to watch.
Right. So I think he'll get better if he can make it through a season. I just don't know if he will be at the level that the Rockies expected him to be at.
And I just think that it's hard, too, with the Rockies. I mean, look, you want to do it. They have personal pride, players do, and he wants to get his numbers where he wants them to be, or at least closer. It is hard with the Rockies. I mean, even if he gets health on his side and he ends up performing better, sometimes you kind of hit a wall. You know what I mean? If the team isn't doing well, which it historically hasn't for the Rockies, right? Like, you just kind of hit a motivation wall at times, right? On those kinds of teams. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, who he has been in the past, Chris Bryant, maybe not who he is anymore, but I think he can still be a good version of himself.
Moving on to the San Francisco Giants, and this might...
Is this stated?
This might be factored out, but I will ask the question anyway.
Okay.
President of Baseball Ops, now Buster Posey, said he's bullish on the Giants' group of young starters, which includes Kyle Harrison, Hayden Birdsong, Keaton Wynn, and Landon Ropp. But the club is still has one big hole to fill at the top of its rotation following the departures of two-time Cy Young Award winner Blake Snell. The Giants were viewed as frontrunners to sign four-time All-Star starting pitcher Corbin Burns, but the right-hander ultimately signed with the division rival Diamondbacks. Other possibilities include Roki Sasaki, Jack Flaherty, and Max Scherzer. Will they add to the top of the rotation? Well, they did yesterday with Justin Verlander. Would you consider Justin Verlander to be a top-of-the-line rotation starter at age 42?
No.
I don't think it's really a top guy.
I mean, they added to their rotation, but I feel like they added depth almost. You know?
It doesn't. I mean, is he your? I mean, on
for
that
$15 million.
In the realm of experience, he's probably going to start opening day, and he would probably be your quote ace. But is he still an ace at 42 years old with those last couple of years?
Right? No, probably not. I mean, I think he could still definitely be formidable. He's a good pitcher. He knows a lot. He's crafty. Justin Verlander has it in him to help the Giants, but they still need to better their rotation. Like, I think they're going to need to get someone else. They're going to need to get like a Flaherty. They're going to need to get someone that's going to give them more longevity too, right? Like, how much can you depend on 42, right?
I don't know how much you can get out of a full season.
Like a full season for a 42-year-old, right?
On a 1-year, $15 million deal.
And
I mean,
maybe
you're trying
he will,
to,
but I don't know if you could expect it.
It's not fair to, like, I mean, I know Justin Verlander's a Hall of Famer and all that other
for
stuff.
Sure.
But, like, you went from replacing Blake Snell, who just won another Cy Young, with a 42-year-old.
Yeah.
So it's to me, it'd be like he's like a 2 or a 3 at the best. I don't know if he's a 1 anymore, and I'm sure Giants fans might argue against it, but I feel like that doesn't really answer
still,
will they add the top of the rotation question.
I think they will still add to the top of their rotation.
They got a lot of money, apparently.
Yeah, they have young starters, which, you're right, Buster Posey has backed, but I think, it's almost the opposite problem of the Padres.
Right.
The Padres have a very strong top and are trying to round it out a little bit more. The Giants have a group of young guys who will round out the back of your rotation, but I don't know about the front of it.
Right. Dodgers. What was always expected is now official. Dodgers general manager Brandon Gomes announced during the winter meetings that superstar Mookie Betts is preparing to be the team's starting shortstop in 2025. Betts got a crash course at the position late in spring training and for the majority of the first half of the season. That came with some mixed results. Betts certainly didn't look out of place when playing short, but he didn't always look natural. The Dodgers, however, believe that with an entire offseason of working out at shortstop and the experience he gained last season, Betts could thrive there. It's hard to bet against Betts, from Sonia Chen, who writes for the Dodgers for MLB.com. Can Mookie Betts play shortstop on a team that has a lot of middle infielders right now?
They're kind of Padres-esque too in that sense, right? I definitely think Mookie Betts can play shortstop. It is a tough position to play. You're the quarterback of the field right there, but he's a good athlete. He's a good natural athlete. He's going to have a full offseason to work on it. I do think he can play shortstop. Here's what I would say, and this is a good problem if you're like another team besides the Dodgers. Why, we saw Mookie Betts get into his head so much last season. Do you really want him in his head about shortstop and then also having to try to hit? That's where I get kind of like, is this the best thing? But who knows? Maybe giving him that helps him, relax at the plate a little bit more. I don't know. We definitely saw him in his head, especially toward the end of the season last year and into the playoffs. So now you're going to have a new position and it's a hard position. That's a hard position, as far as the infield goes.
And that goes to the question, as we have said for the Padres, with all the shortstops that they have, is he the best shortstop that they have?
I don't know if he's the best, but
right. So it's interesting, and we'll see where they're at. And then they ended up trading Gavin Lux to the Reds earlier this week. So something else to look at for the Dodgers at their shortstop cluster that they have up there in L.A. For the Padres. This is written by our friend AJ Cassavell.
Hey, Cassie.
The Roki Sasaki question is a straightforward one. Will he or won't he? The Padres are rumored as one of the favorites for the 23-year-old Japanese ace, and he'd be a seamless fit in the rotation. But here's the thing. The Padres have other holes to fill, and the nature of Sasaki's free agency doesn't really affect those pursuits. His free agency is a unique one. He's a starting pitcher with a workload likely to be monitored, meaning the Padres still need pitching whether he signs or not, and he'll be paid only a rookie salary plus international bonus money. So what about the rest of the Padres offseason? Well, they haven't done much yet, though they could clearly use a corner outfield bat, a catcher, and another starting pitcher. Question is, outside of their Sasaki pursuit, what else do they do?
Well, they need to do quite a bit outside of their Roki Sasaki pursuit. I mean, I am all for this argument of like getting Roki Sasaki is a game changer, and it certainly could be for whatever team gets him. But he's not going to go play left field. He's not going to go be your catcher. Right. You know, he's not going to be, what else do they need right now? Another pitcher.
They still need another pitcher if they sign him.
So I do think that the Padres have still some work to do. And whether that comes via trade and what we were talking about earlier today, maybe you get, some prospects you flip, or maybe you flip for some other major league ready players. Maybe you find some diamond in the rough. Maybe Jerks and Profar not being signed yet. It ends up being something where the Padres can work with him on figuring out a salary. Who knows, but time is ticking. I never thought that they were like waiting for Roki Sasaki to make any other moves, but heck, I mean, we're about a week away from the Roki Sasaki signing, between the 15th and the 23rd, or it was 16th. I can't remember. It's right in there.
It's 15th or something.
Okay. So
you are a week out.
We're going to be a few weeks away from knowing. Maybe they are. Maybe a lot of other teams are waiting for that as well. I still think that like you have other things you need, but the market has also been a little stale since the holidays as it kind of tries to find that flattening out of, more higher priced guys who have gone off the board. So maybe that's the reason for the pause right now.
Well, I don't think, at this point, it's just hard, but when you look at a guy like Sasaki, and if they don't sign him, it feels like a drastically different approach to the offseason than if you do sign him. And if you're waiting for that kind of decision to go with two different plans, it's hard to execute one of those plans without knowing where you're at. So maybe it's not a...
Are you thinking money-wise? Because Sasaki gives you another pitcher on such short money?
Well, I think...
Because they still need all those other players.
I know, but at the same time, it's like if you have... if you have Sasaki at it's probably it's what you do with your budget, right?
Okay,
if you have a set budget in mind,
right,
which I think they do, and they know that Sasaki is only going to cost this, then they can go out and maybe get a better pitcher,
right. Yes.
Or they can spend more there, or they can spend more on a hitter, or they know that they got enough for a Tanner Scott or a Jerks and Profar, or if they don't sign him and now you need two pitchers, maybe you have to go a little bit cheaper with the two that you bring in or whatever that you have, and I'm sure they have a bunch of contingency plans. Now, to me, it's not like you wait until he signs. You wait until he's eliminated you from the competition, right? So if he starts eliminating teams and the Padres know they're out, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they start ramping up their cause for a lot of different things. But it sounds like from all the reports that the Padres still have a really good chance at potentially getting Sasaki, which means they're probably gonna be down in some of the final teams in this decision.
Can we get into that a little bit more, the good chance and the Sasaki drama a little bit after the break? Because I did think something was kind of interesting this morning. It's really not too much to hang your hat on, but enough for a little discussion since Roki Sasaki is trying to make his decision right now. So let's get into that after the break.
All
right. Keep it right here. 97.3 The Fan. 1:23 as we head toward the 2 p.m. break for Annie and Elsten. Last hour of the program. Annie Heilbrunn joined by Braden Surprenant. Craig Elsten is out today. And we've been enjoying talking to everybody these last 4 hours. Hopefully you've been enjoying it as well as we move toward the Gwynn and Chris show. Gwynn and Chris tonight, followed by Matt Scraby, 6 p.m., followed by Sam Levitt inside San Diego Baseball at 7 p.m. So you don't have to turn your dial today. I mean, you're set until 9 p.m.
That's right. All local. Wednesday's
Yes.
a big local day for
It
us
is.
here in town.
It is.
On 97 to the Fan.
You'll get a lot of content.
Apparently we got a birthday in the YouTube chat. Happy birthday to Rod.
Happy birthday, Rod. I think Rod's in Maui.
It's celebrating his birthday.
Happy birthday,
Happy birthday
Rod.
to Rod.
Amazing. Did it say how old he is? 37, 36?
Yeah. I don't know.
All right, well, happy birthday,
Well,
Rod.
one guy said I turned 48 this year, too. Maybe he's 48.
Ah.
Happy birthday. We don't. Age is just but a number.
Age is but a number, yeah. Whatever you feel in your spirit, Rod.
That's right. Absolutely.
Okay, so we were talking about Roki Sasaki in the last segment, and I was thinking about this morning how since the news of the lawsuit broke from Seidler to the brothers, and the brothers responded. And if you missed any of that, we got into it at 10 a.m. So go back in the Odyssey app or go back on our YouTube, and you can get that whole conversation where we talk about the kind of the back and forth, the he said, she said that's gone on over the last 48 hours. But Matt Seidler had some interesting points today that we went over at 10 a.m. And he kind of rebutted what the lawsuit put out with Seidler. Anyways, I was thinking about how the common, when you look on social media and you listen to people, they're like, that's it. Roki Sasaki's never coming here. He's not going to sign with San Diego. I don't know, guys. That might be true. That might not be true. I have no idea. But I do think it's interesting that since that news broke, pretty much every national writer that gets to pick where Roki Sasaki is going picks the Padres. Okay. Or the Padres are in their top 3 still. It's not like they have decided. And they are very aware of what's going on in San Diego, but it hasn't stopped them from still putting the Padres at the top of their projections, Yeah,
and Adrian Gonzalez done a good job of recruiting guys,
Yes.
out of Japan and out of other countries. He's done a really great job with the international signings. And we always go back to that what could have been with Shohei Ohtani, but he wanted to be a Padre.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for the DH rule, so. Don't want to hang a banner for that, but it just shows you the due diligence and how much work that Preller goes in. That even with some outside stuff involving the Padres, that Preller can still be locked in on getting the job on doing his job and making the best pitch he can. And it's obviously still working with them, at least from a national standpoint, and what we're getting from reports.
Right. And there was a story this morning. See Trent Rosecrans in The Athletic, which is kind of a pie in the sky thing. He's taking apart the agent's words. And I hesitate to even give him total credit on this because some of the words that the agent used that he's parsing apart, he's already switched it. Like Joel Wolf has already said now market size doesn't matter. And, he's kind of gone back and forth on some certain things. So if you parse words from the winter meetings, they don't necessarily hold the same weight, but who knows? It's a little exercise for people who need to write this time of year, and they're going to go ahead and they're going to break down some of the quotes and what Joel Wolf said. And so what he did was he gave points. He gave points based on some of the points that Roki Sasaki was intending to maybe use for his argument of where he was going to end up. And he used all 30 teams and he numbered based on those points, where do the teams land? How many points do you get for having this? So I'll go through it real quickly here because it's just a fun thing. It doesn't mean Roki Sasaki's coming to San Diego, but he starts with history of success. So Joel Wolf said, the best I can say is Roki has paid attention to how teams have done as far as overall success, both this year and years past. He does watch a lot of Major League Baseball. Okay, so Trent Rosecrans gave points to success. Well, who would be at the top of that list? It's going to be the Dodgers, right?
It's going to be the Dodgers.
The Dodgers get 30 points, okay? It goes down after that. Braves, Astros, Yankees, Brewers, et cetera, et cetera. Padres are a little further down on the list. He didn't number them, but 10 plus. And the Padres, he gave 20 points, okay? So total points, he gives 20. Not as good as the Dodgers, whatever, right? Small media markets. He says, I think there's an argument to be made that a smaller mid-market team might be more beneficial for him as a soft landing coming from Japan. Now, I don't really know why Trent Rosecrans included this in his article because Joel Wolf has already said market size doesn't matter. But whatever, this is the exercise we're doing, so we'll go with it.
I said that they like the media and all that stuff.
Yes.
And so they're factoring that in.
So they looked at the media market size, okay? How many media? Now, the only way you can really do this is to look at the BBWAA resource list, right? Like how many reporters are listed for each city. Okay, so it's not really indicative of how many are at each game.
We got 13.
Yes. Do you see this right now?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So Padres get 13, which honestly, Braden, I don't think 13 people from the media are there every single day.
No, but there's 13 BBWA, right?
Yeah, and they're not all there at every single game, but they're listed. Some of them probably haven't been there in years, but they're still listed in the BBWAA resource thing. But
about the Yankees and the Mets.
The Brewers are the first with only 8 members of the media. The Padres are like 5th with 13, and then where are the rest of them, Braden? Where's the Yankees and the Mets?
Yankees and the Mets have 132.
132.
It's probably the same 132. And Angels and Dodgers have 60.
It jumps from 60 with the Angels and the Dodgers to 132 media members in New
York.
York.
More than double the amount in New York.
So the thought process there, right, is the Padres will get more points there than the Dodgers, and they did. He awarded them more points than the Dodgers and the Yankees and all of them because they have a smaller media market, all right?
27 points.
27 points, okay, we're still on the board. Yes.
Put on the board, yeah.
Okay, next, developing pitching. So Joel Wolf, his agent, said he's talked to a lot of players, foreign players that have been on his team with Chibalote. He asked questions about weather. Hey, San Diego's good there.
More points.
Yes, comfortability, pitching development. So for the methodology, they use the Cy Young Award voting from the past 4 years. So it's kind of like this is a little harder to quantify. But where do you see the Padres? They are...
Padres for the Cy Young votes?
It looks like, yeah. So the last 4 years, right?
26 points.
26 points total. Not a ton of...
It's the 4th best.
Oh, it's the 4th best. That's right. Okay, it's the 5th best.
Points.
So, yes, 26 points. The Padres are still in the game.
They got 59 points for last year. They won it in 23, 204 points. They had 7 and 22, 0 and 21. Gives them 270
That's
total on the Cy Young votes category that Trent Rosecrans put together. So that gives them a 26 points on the total scale there. They're putting up some good numbers here.
Putting up some good numbers. And so, yeah, on that pitching development one, it goes Blue Jays, Phillies, Braves, Yankees, Padres in terms of that Cy Young voting. So, okay, next one. Direct flights to and from Japan. So Joel Wolf, his agent, said, when we supply information to our Japanese players long before they come over here, one of the things that we provide for them is direct flights from Japan and the amount of time it takes for family to come and visit you. I think about 5 or 10 years ago, that was something that maybe weighed a little bit more, but now you can fly direct from Japan to most of the major cities in the U.S. So the way that they voted on this, they used the distance from the team's home ballpark to the nearest airport with a direct flight to Japan.
Wow, finally a benefit of having an airport downtown with a small runway.
4 miles.
Good thing we didn't move it to Miramar.
The Padres win in this category because they are 4 miles from the ballpark. That is the best of anyone. The Red Sox are second with 6 miles from the ballpark. Then the Mets. It goes on and on. Who's last? The Marlins.
That's a pretty far distance.
Yeah, 655 miles from the ballpark.
I guess.
Holy moly.
They probably don't have a direct flight.
Yeah, they don't have it exactly.
That's probably what it is.
Okay.
All right, so you got 30 points. Bang.
Okay, so now you have the final conclusion from him, okay? Who scored the most points? Who is it, Braden?
I would guess the San Diego Padres.
It is the San Diego Padres. The San Diego Padres, 103 points. The Astros are second. The Braves are third with 91. Now, this is, again, a meaningless exercise.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the big market teams are down further on the list, right? But Trent Rosecrans calculated the math on this. And
look, the Padres beat the Dodgers. The Padres have 103 points. The Dodgers have 72 points.
Got the number 1 spot.
So maybe this is going to be shown to Roki,
Yeah, exactly. Hey, read the article.
The work's been done for you, buddy.
Yeah, Trent Rosecrans got this thing in the bag for
the Athletics are at the very bottom with 30 points. So they don't get nothing. But Looking good for the Padres right here. That's all I'm saying, okay?
Yeah, no. Not a bad, at this point, wait until the 18th. You gotta come up with stuff like this.
This is when you know that you are in the thick of an off season where nothing is happening.
Right.
Because you've got these kinds of stories where he had to put in some work to do the points and figure out all the media markets and all that, okay? And he was like, let's go down this road. Let's go down this rabbit hole.
Let's find. We're just. You know what? We're tired of waiting for Roki to make his decision. Let's just make it for him.
Anyways, if Roki does come to the Padres, I think we get C. Trent Rosecrans on the show, and we talk to him about his
had him on before.
Methodology. There you go.
He's good.
And how it came to fruition. All right, but at least on paper, at least in his article, it makes the most sense to come to San Diego based on his methodology, which is a little flawed. Let's be real.
It might be.
All right, when we come back, we will take some calls. Ask us anything. Final segment of this 4-hour show. I always forget this, Braden. It's at the top of our thing, right? Phone number to call, 833-288-0973. That is 833-288-0973. Call in now. You can ask Braden and myself anything. Doesn't have to be Padres related or sports related, but it can be if you want. Keep it right here. Final segment of the show coming up next on 97.3 The Fan. Final segment of the Annie and Elsten show rolling right now here on 97.3 The Fan. I'm Annie Heilbrand, joined by Braden Soprennant. We are taking you all the way through to 2 p.m. as we turn the reins over then to the Gwynn and Chris show. Matt Scraby show. There's the Matt Scraby show, right? The Matt Scraby show.
It's Scraby show.
Scraby show. At 6 p.m. and then Sam Levitt at 7 p.m. So a lot more live and local programming left here.
Sam already had to come in here once.
Okay, so this is what was crazy. So Sam came in to relieve Ben in the morning for the morning show.
They called for a arm out of the bullpen.
That's right. They tapped out. They said,
right.
We need some relief here.
Ben gave him 3 solid innings,
Yes.
and they needed one more bridge inning to get to us in the middle relief, and they brought in Sam.
Except that when you usually bring someone in, the other player goes and sits on the bench.
Yeah, so when Adam walked up to get the ball from Ben, Ben's like, nah.
No.
He keeps rubbing the ball.
Nah.
He's like, I'm not coming out.
That's right.
I'm not coming out of this game.
And he didn't. He stayed on the mound.
Yeah, but Sam was there too. So they were both throwing warm-up pitches at the exact same time.
Yeah.
It was like a scene out of Major League.
Sam had to do that in the morning, and when he did that, I thought to myself, oh, he must not have a show tonight. Like maybe he decided, hey, I'll just come in because maybe no show tonight. No.
No.
He has got a show tonight.
He's gonna come back.
He's doing a comeback.
I told Adam send the extra invoice, Sam's extra invoice to the Ben and Wood show. They can pay for his hour.
Ben's voice was
that was rough.
It was, but then I got
so bad.
I felt so bad for him too, and I felt like it was painful, but he said that it wasn't painful. And if you didn't hear the show this morning, go back and listen. You'll hear Ben's voice. You'll be like, who's that guy? And it'll be like, oh, it's Ben.
I literally asked that question when I was driving in.
Yes.
I was like, who's the raspy voice guy?
But I got kind of used to it. And even so, like when Ben would talk, I felt like it was like more serious what he would say because it was his deep raspy voice, and he was talking slower, and so
and then Ben on the way out's like, oh, maybe it's the new normal, and I'm like,
he's going through a second puberty.
That's right. Yeah, he'll come back with lower octaves on his voice.
Is it Ask Us Anything time?
Sure.
Mm.
833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We do have one caller, at least on hold. If you want it, you still have time to call in and ask us anything.
Oh, no, you got a lot of time to call in.
Plenty of time.
Ask us anything, yeah.
You can also leave us a voice message if you would like.
Did we get any of those today?
I haven't checked yet.
Okay.
Johnny in Forest Ranch is a pretty straight-up question. Johnny, Happy New Year. What's going on?
Hey, Happy New Year, Annie and Braden. How are you guys?
Doing well.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Again, like I told Braden, my question is very simple. From what you are hearing and maybe seeing and or feeling, will Roki Sasaki be a Padre come spring training?
Oh, well, if I knew the answer to that, I would also be rich off the lottery because I would pick the right numbers.
That's right.
I would be a fortune teller. I'd make a lot of money, okay, because I'd be right. I think that he has as good a chance as any to come to the Padres. I mean, I understand the litigation that is going on right now could have an effect. At the same time, they've already met with him. My guess is they've probably addressed it. If he was really set on coming to the Padres, I don't know that it sways him from coming to the Padres. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that it completely deters him from coming to the Padres. So I think if that's what he wants, that's what he's going to end up doing. And I think they got a really good shot, don't you, Braden?
I think they got a pretty good chance. I don't think money's really that big of a factor. I think he's going to go to a place that he wants to be at. And it's more like recruiting than it is like signing a contract. I mean, it's just how good are our college recruiters compared to theirs?
The most he can make is like $7 million something, right? It's going to be between 5 and 7 somewhere. The money really isn't going to be the big factor here. So
just don't send Mick Cronin over there.
No.
To talk for you. Leave Mick at home.
Leave Mick at home.
Where's that magical box with the questions in it?
Oh.
I think it's right in front of the other computer right there.
This computer?
Yeah, the one that Craig and Ben use. The magic cards to propel us on. Ask us anything. You can still call in 833-288-0973. What do you got for us?
Okay, the magical cards. Hold on. Let me get my ear thingy back in. Okay. Well, we haven't done these in a while.
I know.
Okay, here, I got one for you, Braden. This
All
is
right.
easy. What about your adult self would surprise your teenage self?
Probably what I'm doing.
Oh,
Always
yeah.
wanted to do this since I was probably in high school when I used to listen to the local sports talk radio shows.
Yeah.
So to tell my high school self that would listen to a lot of the shows and watch a lot of the people that I now work with, that I'd be working with them and working at the places that I am, I think it'd be pretty cool.
That's a really good answer.
Yeah.
I don't know what would surprise my maybe that my hair is a little more brunette than blonde right now.
Were you blonde before?
I was actually
blonde?
really blonde when I was younger.
Your
Yeah,
hair's gotten
really,
darker.
really blonde.
My sister complains about that. She
really?
was
Does her
super
hair color
blonde,
change?
and
Yeah.
it's gotten darker. Shit, you don't have an excuse because you live in San Diego.
I
But
know.
her excuse is she lives in places where it gets cloudy and snowy sometimes. So her hair gets a little bit darker, but it gets very blonde during the summertime. I had blonde hair for like 2 weeks as like an infant,
Oh yeah.
and then it went to brown. And my brother had blonde hair growing up, and then that's gone completely dark.
Did you ever do like the frosted tips? Did
No.
you ever like?
No,
did
I
you ever
never
take
did.
lemon juice and put it in the?
No, I think my
No?
sister's done that
Okay.
before, but I've never done the highlights in my. I've always had brown hair, aside from like when I was an infant.
Did you beat up on your brothers a lot growing up?
My brother, no,
Brother. Thank you.
sometime, not
Yes.
really. We're 6 years apart though.
Yeah.
The fighting, more infighting, was Sid and Matt,
Mm.
the two younger ones. I mean, I'd yell at Matt and stuff. I mean, I was more of like as the oldest, you're almost like a third parent, so that would be the
Yes.
that would be the arguing and the infighting.
Yeah, Jocelyn says, have you ever used sun in? Yeah, sun in was like what you would do. You'd put it in your hair and then you'd go outside and have the sun hit your head and it would like turn it a little blonder, you know?
Really?
Yeah, no joke.
You
It was
could
like
buy
a
that?
product. Yeah, you would go buy it. You could also just like use a lemon juice, but it was like a real thing.
We got another phone call.
All right.
We got Tim in Oceanside. Tim, what's going on?
Hey, how you guys doing today?
Doing
Annie,
well.
you're going way back. I used Sun in the late 60s and early 70s.
Oh,
so that's
wow.
an old product. So
It's been around
but
a while.
my question is for Braden, since you asked him about his high school stuff. What year and where did you go to high school? Have you always been a San Diego guy?
Yeah, I'm a fourth generation San Diegan, so not a lot of us out there. My dad went to Grossmont, my mom went to uni, and I went to Cathedral, class of 2013. So my siblings went to Catholic school my whole life. Growing up in a Catholic family, that was part of the deal. So
Yeah.
went to St. Michael's in Poway. Shout out to St. Michael's. Some of my teachers still listen. They listen to the show every once in a while, which is super cool.
That is really cool.
Over at off Pomerado Road, and then I went to Cathedral, where I coach now. So love being a part of my Catholic schools that taught me a lot. Be still part of their communities now today.
Yeah. That's very nice.
So 2013, were you there when Brandon McCoy was playing basketball there?
No, Brandon was there after I was in. He was there when I was in college. I did watch him play a couple times, but he was when I was in college.
Yeah, he had a good year at UNLV. All righty, I just was wondering. I always thought you were from San Diego area, but yeah, Cathedral's a great school. My kids are in St. Francis right now, and I'm coaching there. I went full circle. I coached third grade girls at St. John's in the 80s, and now I'm coaching
Wow.
boys at St. Francis.
That's awesome. Well, that's great. Well, hopefully, if it's boys that you're coaching, get ready for the Saints tournament. I don't know if they did. Does OLP do tournaments? I can't remember. I remember and Tim, appreciate the phone call.
Yes.
That was the cool thing about parochial sports is you all had teams. Like you had like 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th for all the Catholic schools in town would have like sports teams. You'd do flag football in the fall, basketball in the wintertime, and then spring used to be volleyball, and then they would do a soccer tournament. I don't know what they do now. That was for the boys, at least. And St. Augustine would throw in March. They'd do their alumni tournament for the parochial schools. They called it March Madness. They had every parochial school in the county play in this tournament, all at Saints.
Wow.
And it was such a big deal. It was super fun as a kid.
And everybody
up.
came. And
it was cool. It
Yeah.
was it was your first experience of high school sports at the parochial school level when you're 5th and 6th grade, and then 7th and 8th
That's
grade.
a big deal.
Yeah,
you get all excited. You know,
because you end up everybody you played against, you end up playing with in high school. Because most kids that go to parochial school go to either Cathedral, Saints, OLP, or Mater Dei.
Okay.
The 4 major Catholic schools in town. Emily in El Cajon, ask us anything. Emily, what's going on?
Nothing much. Sounds awfully quiet today. I'm going to ask you guys a question. That's all totally off topic for you guys. Are you interested in the Super Bowl, and do you have any picks for who the Chiefs are going to go up against?
Oh,
She's already got the Chiefs
Calling
in
the
there,
Chiefs.
huh? Wow.
You know, I've been thinking about the Chiefs a little bit, Emily. I hate to say it. It's Emily, right?
Yes, Emily.
And I wonder if they're, they kind of have been skating by on a rabbit's foot. You know what I mean? I wonder when the luck is going to run out. But let's say, for the sake of argument, that the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl. I will watch the Super Bowl. A lot of times I'm in Vegas for the Super Bowl. It's a good time, but I usually catch the game every year. I think when the Chargers left, I maybe didn't watch it as much the following few years after that, but now I'm back to watching it.
My interest level has gone down a little bit with that, because it's not like you always would watch it and just dream of what would it be like for San Diego to be in the Super Bowl.
Right.
It's definitely knocked off on in terms of for me, desire to go.
Right, or paying attention to it very specifically,
right?
It's more of a casual watch.
Because everybody's
now.
if you could attend any sporting event, what would you do? And everybody always picks the Super Bowl. I don't.
I got to go to a few Super Bowls. The one in New Orleans, I got to go to. They've had several, but I went to cover that for the Union Tribune, and it's a zoo, man. I mean, it is craziness, but a good time. But yeah, I see your point, Braden. The sport is no longer here in San Diego, so
it's just different.
Yeah,
I've completely turned myself into a college football fan. But a lot of that was working in college football.
Yeah,
working for a team, you get really into it, and I was in a region of the country that really cared more about college athletics and high school athletics than a lot of professional athletics. Mm-hmm. So they do care about professional athletics too. It's just different. So when you're fully ingrained in that, I've just completely flipped my fandom. I mean, I'll watch the NFL and play fantasy football and stuff like that, but I just like college more now. I just don't have a dog in the fight. I don't have a rooting interest in the NFL, and that's how it is for a lot of my friends that are college fans that either were a Charger fan or never really got in the NFL, and they live here, and there's nothing I can really be affiliated with.
Yeah, it does affect, I think. I mean, it definitely affected it for me, covering it. Just you start to lose not the obsession, but the close coverage of it. You know what I mean? You just, because it's why, I
don't need 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You get the talking heads just talking about the same thing over and over and over again. The cool part about the game to me is going to parties.
And they have so many of those too. And going to a house party,
house party or whatever.
The Super Bowl itself is all parties, I
have no interest in really attending a Super Bowl. If I got to cover it or call it or something, I'd be in. But just to go as a fan, I did the national championship. I'm good.
That's cool though. The Super Bowl parties are where it's at. I mean, that's just a fun time.
Yeah, going to somebody's house. It's a good
Eating
time.
the food.
Yeah.
Man, we appreciate all of you who are with us today. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We'll be back tomorrow. And Annie Heilbrunn, Braden Suprenant, and thanks for being with us. 97.3 The Fan. Bye.